Who wants to get crazy? Come on.
I love from Twitter. After party in the hotel lobby, and we all get hit with stern girls.
How good was last week's comedian?
That's a mitzvah. Eli Leibowicz. We just talked about it. Leibowicz.
Yeah.
Eli Leibowicz.
Off to a great start. Wow. Michael's like, I have an intro prepared. Boom, botches the name.
That'll be edited in the first 8 seconds.
A professional stand-up comedian.
Yes, sir.
Whose family and friends asked us to have you here today to ask you what the hell you are doing to them and to yourself and to the community. Explain yourself.
I will be walking around with a green card that says, please, I tell jokes during davening, during prayer, very inside. I want to go insider from the beginning.
That's what you wanted to see, Michael. So I know you a little bit from the stand-up scene, and Michael doesn't, and he's a professional troll in some ways, as you've just discovered.
Sure.
Well, you planned an intervention for Eli Leibowicz.
To be honest, it's funny because I did a synagogue show where most of the ones that I do are that, and the MC, they said, we're gonna have an MC, and this guy, it was a British guy, got up there, like a random person that goes to the synagogue, and he just starts roasting me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this guy is a famous comedian, not that famous because he's here. And I'm like, wow. I was like, this is like my Ofra before I got married, guys. This is rough. But so that really set the tone. So, but I no. So what you said about you just starting being a professional comedian, my friends and family talking me out of it, is that as of just now in 2023, I'm doing stand-up completely full-time, no day jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't have to applaud. It's fine.
My slow clap was literally about to be emotional.
I didn't see.
So on that note, I did want to ask you about that as one of the first things to start us off. Ellie, you've been in this comedy grind for a while, right? Like how many years? 10 years doing comedy on stage?
10 years professionally, give or take.
And you have just made literally this week the decision to go from comedy as a side hustle to comedy full-time.
Yeah, this week, until this point, I was doing day jobs until this week, and now I'm until January 2023, and then I'm doing a full-time. I have a lot of good material from the day jobs.
You're speaking our language, because one of the themes that comes up here a lot is the idea, especially in our community, of the modern Orthodox Jewish community, to get very specific, is Jews from our community who kind of pursue careers and endeavors in the creative space, in art, in music, in comedy, in writing, in ballroom dancing. We'll talk about that later. But I do want to ask about how you came to that threshold where you were ready to make that jump. Was that something that you felt an internal pressure to do? Like, what were the parameters? What were the factors in place that pushed you to go full time?
Well, I just realized that whenever I would get a gig or a gig call for saying, hey, can you do our gala in Florida on a Tuesday night? And then my immediate thought is like this tightening in my chest. I was like, do I have PTO for Wednesday? Not PTSD, PTO enough to be like, can I miss part of a day of Tuesday and Wednesday? How much do I have to ask for because of taking off time of work and whatever, and the whole situation? And now it's very liberating that I realized I'm like, you know what? If thankfully over the last several years, I've been, I was doing about 50, 60 shows a year pre-COVID, and then over Zoom, I did over 100 Zoom shows, which is, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. No, I'm kidding. But
no, you wouldn't wish it on anyone.
Zoom shows were tough, but I made it work.
Okay, thank you. They don't laugh. They just go, okay, thank you.
What I figured out with Zoom shows, first of all, I say now that I say it's really nice to perform for people in person, because after 2 years of just staring at a bunch of old ladies' nostrils through a webcam and not having that, it's such a better thing. But like I early on, thank God, in March of 2020, I was doing a Zoom show from the beginning, because I did some things for people in Israel, because Israel got it, I think, first. And I realized, I was like, oh, Zoom is going to be terrible if everyone's unmuted. And if everyone's muted, it's horrible. It's like a rabbi's speech. Like no one's going to. So what I realized was that I have like 5 people unmuted. And that way you get the laughter, you get the feedback. And
so after a few Zoom shows, you requested, let me have 5 people unmuted.
I didn't get it from the beginning. I said, let's have a few people unmuted.
Right.
And I would the person who booked me, I would say, hey, do you have any good people, or like the good like Shabbat meal, like audience, type of thing? And that way you have a mix of you're not having complete dead silence because that's
Mhm.
terrible to listen to. It's very awkward to just listen to an hour or 30 minutes of just jokes, but no one is audibly laughing.
Mhm.
Like you can see on cameras, but also sometimes Jewish Zoom shows, everyone just puts up their thing. You're like, all right, thank you, Goldbergs.
You
I
hear
can
like,
only- yeah. Well, sometimes I say, I would say like, it's funny. Sometimes it would be people, they forgot they were unmuted, which happens. So it's just funny because I would
what
say,
did he say?
well, I one time said, because I always talk about how what I like to do is really break the stereotype of being a clean Jewish comedian and being able to, like a lot of places will hire a comedian, they'll just Google someone and it won't be a good fit. And then they'll be like, well, we're not going to have comedy for another like,
Yeah.
like I all the time they say like, hey, we had every synagogue is like, well, we had a comedian in 1985
Mhm.
and he swore the whole time and it was the worst Yom Kippur we've ever had. And like, and so I literally like, I always got into that joke on a Zoom thing and I said, hey, I know what you're thinking. You had a comedian once and it didn't go well. And then somebody interrupted and said, yeah, at the Beis Yaakov dinner, it was terrible. And I was like, yeah, and I just want to avoid that right now. Like,
And boomer Jews are just like, oh, I remember that one.
well, that happens in live shows, but in a club or a shul, you don't feel it. In a
Right.
Zoom show, if they're unmuted, you hear it.
Right.
The nice thing about the Zoom thing was that I was able to do multiple shows in a night.
Yeah.
Especially a Saturday night when I could usually only do one after Shabbat ends or something. I have to go to a place. I was able to do 4 different time zones back to back to back.
The practical elements of it was great, but the experience of it is kind of unpleasant. One of the harder things is also not just the muting, but the lagging.
Yeah.
Like you tell the joke and not everybody hears it until
So-
like 3 seconds later. So you're like, did that just? Oh, it didn't bother.
So the interesting is the truth is I don't know how there probably were a bunch of jokes that were missed a little bit because of the timing.
Yeah.
But
you made I mean, it was a weird time for everything.
it was a weird time, and you feel it's kind of like when you look at a picture of yourself with like braces back in the day. You're like,
Yeah.
how did I go outside? Like,
Yeah.
you look back at the Zoom time, and you're like, what did we do? Like, I mean, I listen. I have a Zoom show coming up in February
Yeah.
for kind of like an older community type of thing, but it's nice when it works. It's very far from ideal,
I was going
but
to say it's conservative reform. Who's still on Zoom?
I feel like they're gonna have you can really tell people's religiosity a little bit in their Judaism by their Zoom or by their COVID situation. Like the more religious you are about COVID, I would say the less
Religious.
traditional Orthodox, I would say, or less observant you are
The
in
more
general.
less religious you are about everything else.
Yeah, but it's like, listen, I just had a bacon sandwich,
Mhm.
but I'm about to go to my Zoom Seder in 2027. It's
Yeah.
like and the other way around too, because like certain communities were like, yeah, we're so, very, very religious. And they're like, yeah, COVID's not a thing. And like a lot of your shul had COVID.
Mhm.
So like, I don't know, not to get really down on everything,
Let's do
but
it. Let's get flagged.
let's get really, really down. And,
And you believe in one China? Also, is that?
I was like, for my wedding dinner? Is that what we're like?
Wait, so before we get into the weeds
Yeah.
with Zoom, so you
Sure.
were doing Zoom shows throughout
Throughout COVID. As
throughout
of like
COVID.
March of 2020, I was already doing Zoom. While I had COVID.
What were you doing before March 2020?
In terms of I was doing regular shows.
You were doing you've been gigging for the last 10
Meaning
years.
for the last 10,
Yeah.
I was just look back recently.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably started I did it for the first like open mic or whatever in 2008. I was doing bringer shows at Caroline's All the Shalom, which just closed.
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah.
At the
Really?
end of,
Are
at the
they
end of
moving or are they
2022.
closed, Ellie?
So whatever,
Jeez.
fine.
That's
You're
a
right.
big deal.
I don't
Yeah.
want to start a rumor, but
I know
the location it was at closed.
Yeah.
So that already means something.
Mhm.
So I was doing bringer
So
shows.
legendary.
Yeah.
I was doing bringer shows throughout college at Caroline's.
And you were bringing like fellow like students from the area to just
yeah,
come out
they
to Caroline's?
YU Stern students. They had nothing better to do.
Right,
Like, where you can take the shuttle. Like, where are you gonna go? Like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
So I would do bringer shows. Again, this is like probably 2010, 2011 ish.
Mhm.
For those who don't know, a bringer show is when you guarantee the club that you have to bring people.
They-
You can do
they-
a set, but you have to bring a minimum.
Yeah, they basically
That's
say
the one level up after open micing is the bringer show.
which is basically like they say, hey, listen, we have a Tuesday night, which is not like the big popular nights at comedy clubs are weekends and Thursday nights and things like that. So on a Tuesday night, a club wants to fill in the seats. They'll say, hey, do you have talent? No. Do you have friends? Yes. So then they say, all right, you can do 5 minutes or 5 to 7 minutes, whatever. Bring us anywhere from 5 to 80 people. and you're like, sure. And they pay a cover. I mean, it's not super high. Whatever.
Mhm.
Caroline's was really good. It was like $5 cover,
Mhm.
I think, and then a couple drink minimum, which is pretty solid.
Right, and $45 on drinks and
No,
$5
whatever. Yeah, no, it's a necessary evil though. You got to keep the lights on for these things.
Oh,
I
sure.
get it, but
That's how you got your feet wet in just getting on stage for the first time.
Pretty much. I mean, I did it. My first time was at YU. They had a fundraiser for like a camp, and it was like a talent show, whatever.
How'd
I
it
got
go?
up, went okay, not great, but then the next year they had it again, and I won it. And then the year after that, I came in second, but I should have won it because it was whatever, not my president,
pretty
whatever.
boy.
But I won the popular vote. Whatever.
Cool. And then March 2020 you started doing like more
No,
gigs?
so it's this whole time. Sorry,
Yeah.
so this whole time. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around here.
No,
I'm just curious. I'm curious about the path that leads
So
to like I'm ready to do this
basically,
full time.
I was doing. I mean, if you really want to go back, when I'm from Chicago originally,
Mhm.
and during high school, I was a vendor at Cubs games,
Mhm.
which is not just like working at like here at like Mets games or Yankee games. There's like a kosher stand, which they do have now in Wrigley. But I was literally walking around the stadium, and I would do like. Excuse me, I would do Will Ferrell's Harry Carey, if you know the
Yeah.
reference, whatever.
Yeah.
I literally, with the big glasses, walk around, hey, we got ice cream. Who wants to get crazy? Come on. And it was amazing. People, because in Chicago, people would love it. And I would just go, I would make up my own lines. I'd do some of the riff lines like, now we all know the moon is not made of green cheese, but what if it was made out of barbecue spare ribs? Would you eat it then?
So you would do that?
I know I would. I'd be delicious. And some people are like, what are you doing?
And you're like selling like beer. And
And
ice
I wouldn't
cream,
sell
yeah.
beer yet because you had to be 21.
It's a
but
thing in Chicago for the Jews.
It's a thing. It's a thing
at Wrigley's
for
to be
many
working.
years. We had a mincha minion for night games.
But you weren't a kosher vendor. You were a regular vendor.
I mean, it wasn't a distinction. I mean, Chicago
Okay.
didn't really have kosher. I mean, the ice cream is kosher, whatever, but they didn't have like a kosher hot dog.
But this is
stand
like
until
a side
recently.
cash as a teenager and whatever.
This is
they-
when I started. I started when I was 16. You were able to do it, so I was able to do it. And the Cubs played at day games.
I forgot about that character. Totally.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This guy's got the voices there. I'm going to buy myself a hot dog after this guy here.
Dude, people would give me money.
That guy.
People
yeah.
gave me money without even buying.
Right.
It was amazing. I felt a little
So you were
dirty.
busking as a comic
Well, I guess
at the games.
my question is: are you performing for Jews or for regular goyim?
No, for that
these
I would
shows.
just do Harry Carey. I would be like, guys, candle lighting time is 5:37. That's not gonna work.
But in front of who? Like the kosher Jews or anyone at the
No,
stadium?
This is
This is at
Cubs
Wrigley's.
games.
At
Wrigley
Wrigley's.
Field.
Okay.
Wrigley, not.
Oh no, that's what I'm
Wrigley's.
asking. That's what I'm asking.
Wrigley Field.
Wrigley's, Barnum and Bailey Circus. No sports for me.
I was at Wrigley Field. No, whatever. 40,000. What I was shocked is that they had day games and they
Yeah.
would go. People would go to these games, and the day I'm like, who is going to these games? But they would sell out all the time. I would walk around.
A
And
lot of goyim don't work. I think.
You're taking us back to the source of how you got bit by
I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, that's not what I've. That's
You've
not
heard of
what I
you've heard of anti-Semitism? Michael has the inverse. Anti-non-Semites. But this is how you got
Anti-goyist.
this is how you got bit by the comedy
Anti-Gentile.
bug,
A
essentially.
little
like,
bit.
This little
Yeah,
bit of entertainment.
I was always,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think I remember watching Seinfeld. As I'm telling you for the last time when he did it, like, on TV. And my dad was always into George Carlin and like Rodney Dangerfield. And I watched Seinfeld, the show, as a kid. I watched The Simpsons when my friends were watching Arthur, and I'm like, yeah, I probably got probably watched this a little too early. But like, I always had a sense of humor, and I started doing this job. I didn't do it for the comedy, but like, I did 40 games a season, and you get to
That was
walk
good
around.
crowd work. Good crowd
Best
work.
game ever.
Cool.
Best
And,
job
and,
ever.
and you realize you have a
I realized I have
talent
a
for
thing.
this stuff.
gift
more
of
than the
gab.
other
But I
Like,
also
the gift
realized
of
I realized I went to Israel.
It's Joey Diaz. You got the gift of gab, mother. I won't drop F-bombs for you. But
You can. People are like, do you curse? I was like,
not because you're from, not because of that, but
I look like if I curse, you'd be like, I'm sorry, Rabbi. Like that's
that's not why, whatever. Maybe that is why. I wanted to be
I
respectful.
feel like people say, again, I don't get the type like, hey,
I
have I
don't
seen you on TV? People are like, if I dominate next to you at shul, that's my vibe.
I don't want to cost you some a good banquet gig for me dropping F-bombs. Well, he was on this podcast and they were really filthy. So I'm
Okay,
being
I
Do
appreciate.
you want to curse and you stop yourself, or it's
go.
I talk about people ask me like, are you dirty? Whatever. I'm not dirty as a comedian, partially because like I say I could be I'm a clean comedian because if I told a dirty joke, it wouldn't be believable.
Right.
If I was like, I was hooking up with this one girl, you'd be like, no, you weren't. You go back to Yeshiva University, buddy. All right. And I know you guys didn't laugh at that, but usually that gets 10 seconds.
I heard that joke already.
You've heard it. It's ruined for you. I got it.
Yeah.
But
plus, I know you slayed at YU, so you don't have to lie to me.
I slayed.
Bring it to Caroline's. Tell me about the after party in the hotel lobby. And we all get hit with stern.
The
girls.
funniest thing to me is that a lot of religious Jewish guys don't wear a wedding ring because it's like a thing that usually men give in Orthodox circles. Men give the women the ring, and then it became a cultural thing. Women give men the ring also. But like I wear a wedding ring, but a lot of guys don't, and I just think it's funny. People it's like for me, like I wear a wedding ring by choice because obviously if I did this, you'd be like, oh my god, that guy we got to go after.
Yeah.
This 5'5" guy on a good day
Man,
is really.
Don't sell yourself short.
I am short, so
exactly. So am I, and Michael's not much taller.
I'm not tall.
How
by
tall are
any
you
means.
in Jewish words?
I like to say I'm 5'10", but I'm not. I think I'm 5'7".
What is your expired driver's license say?
Nobody goes in a 3-inch
so here's the
window.
thing: on your license, you can write whatever you want. So
Yeah,
I was
but-
writing 5'10" for a while, and my wife looked at it and she goes, "I don't think you're 5'10".
pretty
When he
sure-
was dating on the Upper West Side, and when he would show up, he would just hand the license and say,
I'm
"Read
pretty
that."
sure one time when
They don't check it. They don't confirm it.
there was a casino in Indiana that before I turned 21, before I turned 21, I borrowed my friend's ID who was 21 before me, and he's 5'10". I borrowed his ID and I like memorized his thing. It was like I didn't get a real fake ID, but it was just like guy looks at me and says, "You're not 5'10". I was like, "Listen, I lied. I'm whatever." And I don't think I got into that casino that day, but.
But so you're a clean guy in your life, so you're not going to be a dirty guy on stage.
Yeah, I think it. Again, it's other than the fact that it's like disingenuous to me. If I started dropping f-bombs and was super dirty, just not my style.
Could you curse once for us today?
I don't want to do that.
He curses at his children. You save it for the home. He saves it all for them.
Listen, I went to a really religious school growing up. Even shut up, the principal would say shut and whatever, like real.
Everybody.
But then he also did say that he once had a memorable moment where he was telling people, meant to say not to tell people to play Game Boy in the bathroom, but he said Playboys in the bathroom, and some kids didn't even know what that was. But that was a historic moment in my day school experience because that it must have been etched on the wall of quotes that you'll always remember.
In those days, you need those things just to sustain you when somebody slips and says like boob or like the principal says the wrong word. You need those moments.
One of ours said the N-word once. He was using it as like an example of like how they used to talk back in his day.
Right.
That was interesting.
I think
in high school?
In high school, yeah. If it happened today, it would have been complete.
I think Neil Brennan, he's a comedian and he co-created the Chappelle Show. He said he has a bit about Huck Finn, and because they have the censored version. He's like, what if you're like a Mark Twain aficionado, and you're like, hey, can I have the original version? Yeah, the one with the N-word. Like, he says it, and I like.
They didn't take it out, did they?
There's like
versions of it with that.
listen.
If
If
it says N-word in the text, it
listen.
says
If Aladdin has a Disney Plus disclaimer, by the way, this movie was made before we were very educated about stereotypes, and even though Robin Williams is hilarious, maybe the impression he did at the beginning was a little.
You know about that, right? The disclaimers on Disney Plus that they put in front.
I heard it.
Disney
I've never
movies?
seen it myself.
Yeah. So instead of removing scenes from the movie, they put a disclaimer. Some of these were made in times where we weren't as woke.
Which all of Europe.
What makes the red man red?
I just feel like all of Europe.
Peter Pan, the red man red. What makes the red man red is the song in Peter Pan about Native Americans.
Got canceled for that.
There we go. It's okay. We don't worry about that here. We're crusaders. We're revolutionaries on this.
Speaking
part.
of crusaders, I feel like all of Europe should just be like, by the way, we were the original Kanye. Like,
he had a viral tweet recently. I'm just going to give a shout out to that. He said.
I said, when the whole beginning Kanye thing happened,
his Twitter game is
first
on
thing,
point.
I said,
I
great,
saw
now
this.
everyone's going to say that the Jews killed Jesus.
I saw that.
But then,
I saw that.
thank you. Well, then I built on it. I was able to build on it because I posted a tweet a year before or something about, he had these like, Kanye had these shoes that were like, they were like beige. They looked like dough. And it literally looked like dough. And I wrote, there wasn't enough. They had to flee Egypt, and there wasn't enough time for the sneakers to rise. And then I wrote, but I captioned it and I said, "This is the tweet that set Kanye off." And then another one, I
saw that one too. You mean a pair of his shoes that looked like
pair of his shoes that looked like dough, and it was very good. And then if I don't say so myself, but then the other one was I was trying to connect this to the whole Taylor Swift thing, and when he interrupted Taylor Swift at the VMAs, and I grabbed the mic from her and I posted the picture of him taking the mic, and I said it's ironic because interrupting somebody mid speech is like the most Jewish thing that you can do.
Well, he claims he's a Jew.
That's great.
I guess that's
sorry. It's a good joke. It's a good
joke.
No.
I hear you.
On this point of these very Jewish jokes, I wanna ask you.
You
about
mean my
something.
act?
Yeah, your act. I want to talk about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And just to wrap up on what we talked about before I get to this next question. Basically, it's really nice that I feel like the practical elements in your life have now determined that you're going to comedy full time, and it was really this long. You were asking before how we got to this point, and like you had day jobs during the day, and then it gets to this point where they're too up against each other that it's worth taking the plunge into full time.
Yeah,
comedy.
it's a little
as opposed to sort of like I'm just gonna try it and follow my.
No,
like, it's
that's
a
the
practical.
thing. It's
move.
also like from a financial standpoint, I'm just like I'm not just going from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
Like I'm already hopefully at 40
Right,
in that weird analogy that I just.
And you're
made.
a surgeon?
Huh? It's funny.
Do you have a job? And then we're gonna get to Ami's question.
I used to.
Do you have a job that I don't know, like was it like do you have like a robust career, or was it like sort of you were taking
No,
jobs
I'm a
as
comedian. I
hedge?
don't have a robust career.
No, I'm
Why
saying
would I?
no. Your day jobs was this
I'm saying
like,
I don't think. I mean,
No.
right, you're right. I
that's
was
the
working
question I
at.
realized.
No, it's a good
you
question.
don't have to say specifics at all. Just
No,
like,
no, it's
what
fine.
sort
I
of
worked
work-
at a startup recently for the last couple of years, working from
Okay.
home, and before that, I worked at B&H because I needed more material. But if B&H,
so
is
that
the,
type of thing, like waiting to.
no, meaning like stuff that wasn't like, but also was just like, hey, I was a psych major in school,
Mhm.
which is the classic. What are you doing with your life?
Mhm.
So I'm still trying to figure out what it means to be an adult. I don't know.
But unlike a lot of, I'd say, artists or whatever, you've done it in a very like reasonable way, practical
I'm
way.
Jewish, so
I'm
there is
just-
the.
You meet a lot of people along the way who are just kind of just going out into the abyss with no real calculations about anything and no real awareness of anything, and are just like, I'm just, good. It's very amorphous. But in your case, it was like you're
A couple of
you do have a sense of not caring about what other people think and perceive and what you're doing, and it's very much your own path, and I respect that. I think that I don't know if you're aware that that's how it comes off.
I appreciate that
yeah.
because as a comedian, I very much care what people think. 'Cause
Material-wise,
my currency
yes.
is Facebook likes. So and
No, but
tweets.
in terms of your trajectory, you're like, now I'm ready to do it. It feels practical. It feels like the right thing. It doesn't, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like you have a self-awareness about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's an instability of it, obviously. There's an instability of, you never know. In this career, Mike Birbiglia, the comedian, he used to say that, like, when you're self-employed, checking your emails like your slot machine, you're like, refresh.
That's really funny.
And it's true because you're like, tomorrow, someone can call me and say, hey, can you do our dinner for, whatever in this date? I mean, but
Tom
like,
Segura said the same thing. He's like, I was like unemployed for half a year, and then I get a call from my manager, and I have 400 shows booked.
like it's
Like
crazy.
he goes from hyper-employed to unemployed, hyper-employed.
So
to
like
unemployed.
hopefully thankfully like I'm on
his-
I'm very a seasonal calendar type of thing where I know like my peak season for a lot of these synagogue shows are like after Shabbat is over, which is like November to March. They're talking about daylight
Early
saving.
Shabbat.
Yeah, early Shabbat. They're talking about daylight savings time changing it, and I'm just like, what about my Saturday night gig? This is gonna kill me. But I'm like, all right, I had like 8 to 10 gigs either confirmed for 2023 and some to do, and I'm like, all right, let me work on. I figured if I made this much and I was doing this many gigs until this point with a day job without putting 2 feet in, because I didn't even have the energy mentally
Sure.
to be like, hey, let me email these places, let me send my stuff, let me work on my social media, let me work on all this stuff. If I now am putting 2 feet in, I would hope that my trajectory would at least be a little higher.
And it would be diminishing. You're like, I'm keeping the practical here so I can do the thing I'm really passionate about. But at a certain point, both are holding each other back, and they're like not growing because you're not one in the other. But now you're at a point where one is sort of at this threshold, and if you jump in, it can it can go there and do better.
The super Jewish analogy I'll make is called an Iker and a Tafel, which is like, this is level 500 of Judaism, where if you're eating two things, it's like a ice cream sandwich is the best example I would say. It's like you make a different blessing on each kind of the food. And by the way, Oreos too. Sometimes people are like, my 5-year-old, teaching him the blessings, and I was like, all right, what do you say on Oreos? And he's like, Mizona would be for the cookies, and it's called shahakal for the cream.
Jews bless everything, even everything before we
every
eat.
food you make has a specific blessing. It's just to remind you. People say, why do you wear a yarmulke? I was like, it's as I said, same thing with a wedding ring. It's it's a reminder that you're not in charge, and there's something more important than you, and don't do anything stupid. I know, so cute.
Oh wait, I can just say I love that because we're not in charge, and like you have to manifest, but ultimately it's up to God.
I say it says on my ring. It says the same thing it says on the ark. It says, "Know before whom you stand." No. So my son. By the way, my son said, he's like, what blessing to make on it? He's like, shahakal.
I giggled at that. I didn't know. Yes, Michael's calling me out with his eyes.
My son said shahakal.
Yeah.
And I said, no, actually Mizona. He's like, what if you're eating it for the cream? And I was like, oh my God, which is a real Jewish law. And I'm just like,
send him away, put him in yeshiva somewhere.
Send him away?
Yeah.
For 13 years.
He's
and then
gifted.
comes back.
He's
And then
gifted. The Iker and the Tafel. So explain.
Iker and the Tafel is like, which one's the main thing that you're eating it for, and which one's Iker is the main thing, and Tafel is like the side thing. So it became very much a thing with my job of like, people would say, what do you do? Like, oh, I worked at the startup, but I also do comedy. Or like, what do you do? Oh, I have comedy, but I worked at B&H. Or like, I worked at a nonprofit type of thing. And it would be one of these things. Which one is your Iker? Which one's your Tafel? And it's like, it's a little, I feel like a Jim from The Office moment where it's like, this isn't my career, this is my job. And like, I realized, and when I kind of realized I'm like, I'm going to go 2 feet into comedy, I just felt this sense of relief that like, I'm like, yeah, I'm a comedian.
Can I ask a question? Or did
many questions.
Did we go down the line of questioning you wanted? Because you said you wanted to come back to something about the Jewish jokes, maybe, or the Jewish market.
I mean, if you have something to add
Look,
before
can
that,
I just add something just generally,
Sure.
foundationally?
Sure.
And you don't have to answer specifics, but I'm curious, like how old you are, because I think that matters a little bit.
I am turning 34 next week.
Okay, cool. So just that helps me understand.
Yeah,
like, where you're
no,
at. Okay.
I graduated from YU Yeshiva University in 2011. I was 22. I actually got engaged in 2013, like when I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
And a month before, it was like, what, you're supposed to spend 3 months' salary on a ring. I was like, what's 3 times 0? And it's 0 for those of you that weren't math majors, those of you who aren't Jewish. I used to say a bit about like when they say when fast times end, like Jews have like 6 fast days a year. So like you check a website, like what time is the fast end? For like based on when the stars come out, it's a lot of astrology. But basically it says for those who find fasting difficult, it ends at 5:37. And I say for those who aren't Jewish, the fast is over 5:45. But apparently that joke doesn't work because my assumption is that Jews have of course. Jews find it difficult to fast. But anyways,
I think it was a nice joke.
It was a good tweet.
I get what you're saying.
It's fine.
Every Jew
comedy's
finds it
not for
difficult.
everybody.
Yeah.
Stop.
A lot of times it's the audience's fault when they don't get it.
Yeah, that's what you want to do.
You don't bro. You don't insult me on my fucking show. Okay, there's the F-bomb you didn't want. Good luck with your gigs, man. You don't. Have you seen those podcasts where people explode? It's starting to happen.
Speaking of, the Island Boys, they walked off Logan Paul's.
Yeah.
They just sold their diamond teeth because they're like running out of money.
Yeah, it's happening.
They sold their diamond. That's really the bottom.
That's where you can get your ring. That's where you can get your ring from the
There you
Island
go.
Boys teeth.
It's me. Like, what's the equivalent? Selling their teeth because they're out of money.
Yeah.
That is like the pawn shop.
I sold my teeth, man.
How do you pawn that off? You go to a pawn
Who
shop. It's
buys
like,
that?
Yeah. Hey, do you want teeth? And it's like, do you have like someone else's molars? Is that better?
So you're 34.
So you're 34. Okay, cool.
How old do you
34.
feel?
Get into it.
How old do you feel?
I did a show with the Lon Gold, who's like 20 years older than me, and I said it's amazing because I'm 20 years old, younger than him, but I look 20 years older than him. And I'm just gonna turn until I merge into the Boca scene, where I'm just guys. I'm here. I'm 42. I look like Hans Moleman from The
You're
Simpsons.
trans age. You identify as 63.
I'm just gonna be like, listen. Well, I feel like I do have an old soul also.
Yeah.
I'm like, I listen listen to the music. Even the last 20 years, I'd just be like, what is this garbage?
So let's talk about brand for a second.
Sure.
I want to talk about that because
Sure.
one thing I also really respect about what you do
Yeah.
is you're an unapologetic Jewish comedian in the truest sense that oftentimes in the entertainment world, you know, there's like this hierarchy of like, and the music world too, because I come from both worlds and I've been in the music world a long time. What's funny, Michael?
A good phrase for that is a group of friends that I have calls an unapologetic Jew a Jew fuck.
Is that really?
I think it really just encapsulates like he's a Jew fuck.
Did you make that up?
No, that's what they call him.
So much for the F-bomb thing.
It's a term of endearment, I think.
Okay.
It's just that you're not no bias here.
Did you make it up, Michael?
No,
Oh, okay.
I make
It's a
it.
real
No,
term.
I make it up. No,
Oh,
it's
okay. It's
like
a real term.
I have to get to my rabbinical class very soon. So
My point is,
Anyway.
in various industries,
I think we're gonna get good comments.
you know,
on that.
like we come from the Jewish world, modern Orthodox Jewish world, where it's like there's Jewish music and then there's secular music, which is sort of like everybody kind of puts these things into categories. And in the comedy world, I feel like, you know, there's people who want to break out of the Jewish scene and you want to dive deep into it. And like you are proudly going after and seeking after venues, dinners, community events, school functions, these kinds of things. And your comedy works for that world really well. It's like totally suited for it. And it almost, you're making jokes about that world. And I felt like the more I've been like sort of in the entertainment space, like the deeper you go and the more authentic you go, like the more universal it is in a way.
I think I totally hear that. Meaning, listen, the Big Sick we were talking about with Kumail Nanjiani, like that really inspired me. I'm like, you can make an entire movie about being Muslim. Granted, there's like 100 times as many Muslims in the world as Jews.
I don't even pray anymore.
Are you saying
You
there's-
just wanted to prompt me to do Kumail Nanjiani. Listen, when I made The Big Thick, I was really trying to do stand-up and make jokes generically. But the truth is, I realized you can make... No, but the truth is...
he was saying there's too many Muslims.
Michael's... Mr. I'll take you out of context. Out of Context would be a great podcast. A podcast called
The
Out of
name of my
Context.
newsletter is Context is Everywhere.
Right. Call it Out of Context.
Context is everywhere.
Which I think is
One of my
funny.
special titles is going to be called "That Was Actually Funny" because people say that to comedians and they don't realize how condescending that was.
No, that
I
was-
was expecting it to be terrible.
I had a gig for like a crowd in LA, very religious crowd, Hancock Park, in a backyard. It was like the first stand-up show I ever did, and it wasn't an open mic. It wasn't 5 minutes. It wasn't an opener. Someone's just like, I like your impressions. I like your impressions. I'm gonna book you for a stand-up gig. I'm like, okay, but I don't have. He's like, it's fine. Just do what you do. Just do what you do because he saw me do a few minutes here and there, and if you put me in front of this crowd. It's Purim, outdoors. Right before I started, someone goes, "Be funny." Okay, I'm dressed like the Joker because I'm still in my Purim. Everything was up against me. Even for a seasoned comic would have been good, and it was a total bomb.
Do you at least have a Joker impression?
I did, and it scared the.
Sometimes
it scared the crap out of the crowd.
So-
I was there, and I was like, "Do you know why I have these scars?" And they were like,
By the way, when
was
I
like-
I ran an improv comedy session and we just did Who's Line games at one time.
Yeah.
And one of the things was scenes from a hat. And the thing was famous movie lines that you would change.
Yeah.
So somebody gets up there, this guy, Akiva Weisinger, who's a rabbi, actually, he gets up there and he says, "You want to know how I got these shoes?" And it was the best line.
"It worked."
Because that's a funny,
Yes.
I'm saying improv.
Mine didn't.
I know.
So
Sometimes-
that's a great story, Ellie. But just one second.
Sometimes
Anyway, after the gig,
Yeah,
some girl
sorry.
comes up to me and goes, "You were really funny. We're just not a laughing crowd."
which is not, we normally.
I prepared all this material. I burned through it in 3 minutes. I had a 20-minute set.
I'm telling
So
you,
for
man,
17 minutes, I was like,
I'm rereading Mike Birbiglia's Sleepwalk with Me,
Right.
and he talks about his first gig at
Yeah.
a show. And he's like, guys, like, do you have 30 minutes? He's like, yeah. He's like, I should have said I really have 6. And then he's like counting for laughs. He said I did about 4 minutes of comedy and apologized a lot. I threw up beforehand and whatever. This is
my bandmate was there because he was there from doing music and he was in a different like setup. So he's watching me. And the funny thing is he was kind of laughing at me with me because I was sort of like, guys, geez. I was like going after the
It's,
crowd a little bit.
it's-
And it was just like, if you do a music gig, you play your thing and you get off, you're fine. But if you mess up, you're either the king or the clown if you're comedy. And I was literally the clown. but it didn't
I,
work.
if I bother my wife, sometimes I go shush 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 shush. I go like that. I go shush 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 like the Joker. It was back in. I just go shush 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 shush.
Oh wow, that's hot.
Is that something the Joker
No,
does?
if I just say if like whatever.
That's really fun.
But anyway, I mean, saying you go after this world and you pursue it actively of banquets, synagogue dinners,
Yeah.
community events, and you go up against these crowds and you do these things. And like, this is the humor you want to bring out into the world.
Well, a couple things. Part of what you're saying also is that I say the Jews like something more than laughing, and that's correcting people. And it's very true because even a few of you listening are like, I don't know if he's right about that. I could tell, but like, so I'm saying Jewish crowds are very tough because they're just like, my cousin is much better than this. So maybe next year get him instead of this schmuck. And but I realized I honed this thing of that, you know, people say like you wear a yarmulke, like why do you wear a yarmulke or whatever? And I'm just like, it's part of my life. This isn't a prop. This is a thing that I'm like, I'm a modern Orthodox Jew, and this is like this is my life, and it's so much a part of my life that like I even sometimes I'm like, you know, I struggle with like relating to people that aren't Jewish about certain things. Like, do people that aren't Jewish even own a crock pot? Why would you? Like, what do you even play board games? What on family game night, which I think only exists in commercials for board games? I don't know. And like, so I very much was like, hey, I have like an hour and a half of material basically for a certain Jewish crowd, which I would call people that are like affiliated and have a background to pretty right wing, like, or you know, Orthodox wise. I mean,
Because you can go real deep on, like, because you have a background.
Iker and Tafel, I just do 20 minutes on brachos and blessings, and it's great.
Yeah.
But I do have, you know, people say, like, you know, I did a Christmas Eve show for a more secular crowd. I did 15 minutes and went really well. But I also think there is something to be said about there isn't a ton of Orthodox comedy or Orthodox people doing comedy. And I think what I like to break is the stereotype of just being like, I'm a comedian and religion is stupid or whatever. And it's like, or like, you don't know anything about me, but like, don't make a judgment. Just don't assume everybody is like this certain, you know, stereotype.
But you don't also stool or stool?
Pedestal.
We have an
guys
episode where
look
we went
into
back and
it.
forth on that. You don't pedestal like, oh, I'm the club headlining or Netflix special style, like trying to be like other comics. You're only trying to be like you, and like you look at these gigs as valid and credible as anything else. And I agree with that, and I respect that, as opposed to like, you know, I've met like musicians in the Jewish world who would be like, yeah, I mean, I'm playing weddings and stuff, but you know, like I'm trying to write for other artists, you know, I'm trying to get out there, and they kind of just do this tit for tat and like put one down and place one above there as this prize while having to do the other stuff, and you don't seem to do that. I think that's pretty admirable.
Thank you. I mean, I listen. I also realize that like to get to this point is from doing tons of Jewish gigs that have paid the bills,
Right?
And that's also the thing is I'm also practical about it. That like
You're actually evangelical. I know that.
Yeah.
in a regular.
Well, I want to hear about the finances of it.
Well, in a regular setting, the main comedy club model or the main comedian model is basically you're gonna get passed at a club to try to audition for a club to perform for 3 minutes at midnight, and hopefully, and then they'll call you and say we're available to get like I don't know $25 to $50, and that's where really people would break their teeth, and I get it. And you get to that point where you're opening okay, and then you're like, all right, I'm at this club and it's great. And then eventually you hopefully go open on the road for someone, which means that you go to a weekend in Cincinnati or something for 5 shows from Thursday to Sunday. At the beginning, you probably make like, I don't know, $500 maybe. You probably have to drive your way there. If you have a car, then okay, you get more street cred. Then it's the middle opening or emceeing, and then middling is like, I don't know, 20 minutes, 25 minutes in the middle, and then you have the headlining set where you know, again, it's probably $1,000, $1,500 type of thing. I don't know if it's. I don't know. Again, it's obviously different because like once you're a name, you sell tickets, you split that with the door with the club. But for myself, I'm just like, all right. I mean, I can do a dinner at a synagogue and be like, all right, I can make what people would make in a weekend.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that. So yeah, so it's you don't have to say the exact number, but they're paying like a few $1,000s for a gig like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
And also and again, I mean, it's more. Again, it's a different situation, obviously, but like, yeah, you get paid. I mean, it's commensurate of like what happens, what they want you to do sometimes, but like it's also like there's schlepping costs and all that. But to be able to get, hey, I'm doing this dinner for this thing on this date, and
it's a corporate model in a way.
It's a corporate model, but not as crappy as a corporate.
But also, I mean, it's I think it's a grass is greener situation because I know there's probably a ton of comics out there pursuing the road gigs and those opportunities, but they wish they had a community to build off of and build from. And they don't, it's not like they have these, they don't have access to a community that's wanting to book them in this sort of internal space first.
You're just feeding the Kanye right now, but it's, no, I'm kidding. But no, I think it's.
But you know what I'm saying? They're
the
like,
network, the network of.
Look at Joe Coy, right?
Yeah.
I don't really know his story in depth, but it does seem that he's built up this organic following in the Filipino community, making jokes about the Filipino culture and his
Russell
family.
Peters,
Russell Peters.
What? Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah, and just like talking about themselves, and they built it very organically from a community that's very tight knit and controls everything.
But listen. I posted recently that I'm doing comedy full time, and I got like, I don't know, 700 likes. I felt like 700 likes on Facebook, and I was like, wow, I feel like I just got engaged. Like it was, it was really nice to see that.
Right.
And like I'm realizing, I'm like, wow, I really have a lot of people that are like, that's the crazy thing about the internet.
It should have been only Simchas, you and a mic.
You don't. You're gonna explain only Simchas to your crowd.
Only Simchas. Now that's fine.
There's a website back in the day.
Yeah.
And when
you should have put a little shade on
when
bad things like this.
And when bad things happen, it would be only atzvos.com.
That look of the engaged collar. Like,
well, we always had the idea of when
more to the side of
it's like her back's about to collapse.
No, but also they wouldn't touch for the picture.
Yeah.
So you got to do these. You're like a couple standing this apart is more gross than making out, to be honest. Like really, I would rather you just make out in front of me versus.
That would be hilarious. Nobody had the balls to do that, but an only Simchas pic of them just like going at it at the engagement party would be hilarious.
I'm trying to think what's the only Simchas equivalent now, but I guess there isn't one.
There's a million of where you just post like your engagements.
It's my Simchas.com. Is there something? I don't know.
Oh, anyway.
I don't know. But no. So I very much I think it is about honing your audience. That like I think it's I don't know if it's Conan O'Brien said it about like Pete Holmes that or something like that because Conan O'Brien gave Pete Holmes his show or something for a time, and it's like eventually you just do your thing, keep doing what you're doing. Like hopefully you have enough awareness that like is this working? Like there's a lot of deluded comedians out there, and you're just like, dude, you can't tell. Like comedy, at least you can tell very early on, unless you're very deluded, you can tell this is going well. And sometimes you do get Hungarian Jews who are just like, we don't really laugh. And you're like, we enjoyed it. You want to tell your face? Like,
Well, we had a whole conversation last week about a Rick Rubin interview where he said, keep doing you. But that is a dangerous piece of advice for someone who doing them isn't working. It's about being self-aware.
Have the awareness. Yeah. Again, listen, not to body shame. I joined the gym because I'm just like, I looked at myself on video and I'm just like, I don't want to really look so pregnant.
That's fat phobic.
It's also Jewish phobic. But,
I told someone recently I think I have body dysmorphia, and he goes, "Oh, what? Like your nose?"
I'm pretty sure.
My weight.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, somebody said. I saw somebody post on Facebook. They said a friend said their kid said they saw a picture of Rambo or something, and they said, "Oh, Daddy, that's you," or they said, "Daddy," and I said, yeah, my son did that with Humpty Dumpty. So,
Daddy, that's you.
Or something like Daddy. I'm like, oh boy.
So Pete Holmes is an interesting person to bring up because he sort of started out as a Christian comedian, like very clean. I might be
I think
wrong
you're a
about
Christian
that.
person more.
Well, Christian, right? Yeah, Christian person. But at the beginning of his career, I think he wanted to be a clean person, and he was doing a lot of church gigs. I think that was kind of like when he took off. But now he'll play to theaters, and his material is sort of like religious, like he'll talk about God and the spirit and that whole experience.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't really call him a Christian comedian anymore.
No.
Like, do you have ambitions to transcend the Jewish audience and just make jokes generally, or are all your jokes?
I honestly, a lot of the reason I come up with the jokes I have is because, like I said, being part of a modern Orthodox Jew, just so much of my life that you're so focused. I'm just like, all right, you get up. All right, got to put this on. All right, got to wash my hands. Got to go to the bathroom. Say that blessing. Got to put on tefillin. Got to put on whatever. Like it's so much. There's so many aspects, and I think that's also why Judaism is the way it is, because it's like, here's a constant reminder. By the way, you're Jewish. Meaning, like, as much as not to evangelicize Judaism a little bit, but which is ironic. But I really think that's the whole point of why Judaism is such an action-based religion. Because it's literally like, and at its heart, here's what you're doing all the time, constantly. Why do we make a blessing on food? Always think about, by the way, this isn't like, God controls things.
Mhm.
Always think about this. So my immediate thought is about Jewish stuff often. And sometimes I'll be like, okay, flying with a baby, I'll have a general joke about that. But I would really love to have, let's say, my 90 minutes of material or a consistent 90 minutes of material for, let's say, an Orthodox room or conservative or reform.
Mhm.
But again, that's also like how inside baseball can I get? So about 40 minutes, let's say, for all kinds of Jewish audiences,
Mhm.
and then at least 30 minutes of regular material for a corporate gig where you're performing at a law firm, and they're like, no one's gonna get your jokes if you talk about davening for too
Well,
long.
so the reason I ask is because when you're considering, do I want to do this full time and thinking about the finances, like in terms of growth, like there is a certain ceiling if your audience is Orthodox Jewish.
Right.
So when you're thinking of like where am I going to be in 20 years, I would imagine I'd think like that will be my base, but I also want to be able to play
Right. So
completely different audiences just so I can make more money at some point.
No, that's definitely a good point. And I also don't want to. I'm not trying to alienate people when it's like I'm making a reference that you didn't get.
Yeah.
You know.
No, yeah, I know.
I remember making a joke. I remember doing a show. I think it was NYU on a Friday night thing, and they said, "Don't make a joke about." It's going to alienate non-Orthodox people or something like that.
Of course.
So it was like,
it the Hillel who said that?
I forgot who it was,
Yes.
but it was like, don't make a joke. So
No,
it's
not
like,
the Hillel,
you can make
'cause they're not Orthodox.
You can make a joke about.
Hillel's pluralistic. So
Yeah.
they said, that's going to alienate the
right.
non.
I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah,
Whatever
sorry.
they.
Keep up, Bojan. Yeah.
But they said, listen. They said you can't make a joke about it. So it's like I can make a joke about having a tefillin day, but I can't talk about putting on tefillin the next morning. Like, you know what I mean? Like that would be. But like again, if I'm doing a show where
Tefillin date, you said? Tefillin date?
tefillin date.
I like that.
I did not coin that. You've never heard that?
I have. I thought you said day.
Oh, okay.
So
It was its film day.
that's a momentum breaker right there.
I'm sorry. Anyways, but
Sit there for a minute.
Should we
Huh?
do
I'll let
do an ad?
Yeah. An ad read. But yeah, so they said
Right.
to you not to alienate.
they said not to
non-Orthodox.
alienate. So I just like if I'm doing like a show and it's like, hey, don't make this joke. I'm like, listen, if I make a joke about Avatar, the original one, and like 3 people didn't see it, I'm gonna make that joke.
Mhm.
So like, it's not my fault that you don't get the reference. But so I don't specifically like do. I do if I know I'm doing a synagogue of this kind of crowd,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be like, guys, you're gonna get this, right? This is because I'm trying to tailor the material. If I do a Chabad and they say, by the way, they don't know as much of background stuff beyond Pesach, Rosh Hashanah, and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to I'm gonna navigate those waters.
Because you want to do well.
I want to do well. I don't,
Yeah.
but I do want to have a repertoire where all of a sudden I get a corporate gig and say, okay, there's 6 people that are Jewish. Everyone else is not Jewish. You need 25 minutes during lunch. Go.
Right.
And I can't just be like, you guys know when you're making a blessing on Oreos, but you say the wrong bracha. So
You could also have an alternate set that provides more context to the things you do talk about with an affiliated crowd that just gives a little more to it. Like you might have to explain to a non-Jewish crowd that we make blessings on everything. You could still get them to the funny. It just requires a little more.
I struggle with that though
you
because
know.
I struggle with how much. Because you know why I struggle with that because it's such a. If you can say something in one word, like an inside, like Kent code. This was a game that we played in camp back in the day. Kent on Shabbos afternoons because we couldn't watch TV.
Right.
Hence the name of this special. Remind me after Shabbos.
We're
But
gonna destroy
We'll talk about that.
Kent's Instagram this week.
Kent Instagram is really
It's
going to
gonna
be
go
big.
on fire for us.
No, but I really. Sorry, what was I saying before that with the?
Well, that if there's a crowd that isn't going to be plugged into your
code,
really
the code.
Jewish
Yeah.
inside baseball material,
How much do you explain?
Right.
That's a tricky thing.
you have to
because-
pick? Right?
But not just that, but like I can make this funny, but is it only fun? My biggest struggle is this only funny if you are experiencing it? Like talking about keeping kosher on a vacation
Yes.
does not mean the same. Meaning when you go on vacation and you keep kosher, like I can't relate to people that aren't keeping kosher because they're just like yeah, you can just eat anywhere. They're like, no, you have to eat what you brought.
But you
I
have
think,
to.
I
Yeah,
think
you
you're
tweak the-
limiting. I think you're limiting yourself, though. Sorry, I'm going to interject because I think there probably is a universal joke there that
For sure.
400 million people could get about sort of whatever it is, going on vacation with your little eccentricities and demands. That you could open it up.
Oh no, for sure.
It just requires more work.
No, you need
Yeah.
need an alpha and a beta side of each testing probably.
Yeah.
And say this is the version I do for this. This is the version I do for this, which I don't do enough.
No, but even with Jewish audiences, like if you brought it to why is this funny for me?
I don't know, because
you
meaning to me, there's something about if I say to you, I am a Galila guy,
know,
that doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. If you are,
Isn't the joke you have a Galila body, not a Hagba body?
No, I'm a Galila build.
But
I'm a
how
Galila
Mike
build, not a
Birbiglia
Hagba
do
build.
it? That's funny. No, it's really funny. But how Mike Birbiglia would do it, he would sort of like lead up to like what that means when I say that.
No, that's
sort of,
that's definitely an interesting thing, and you may be.
Yeah.
I may be selling myself too short. In
Likely
terms of,
Michael's wrong. Don't worry about
No,
it.
no, I think it's a good point because I don't know. I just think sometimes for word economy that it's a lot easier to say, I do Glila, the guy who rolls up the Torah, not the guy who raises the Torah, which could be, we may have just solved the way I can tell that joke in a non-Jewish or a more secular environment.
Yeah.
But I also don't know what made it.
But I don't even mean the audience necessarily. Just like for the joke itself. Like when I think thinking about Pete Holmes talking about writing comedy, Mike Birbiglia, like and I give Ami garbage for this also. Just like sort of like it seems like they'll spend years thinking through like what is the kernel of truth in this thing that I'm trying to tell, and like those are the jokes that eventually sort of make it to the special or the show or whatever. Like
That's interesting.
like just as joke writing, like figuring out like Galila gets that laugh right off.
What do you mean I don't do that?
But meaning
What's
like
the garbage I get?
but-
No, like I give you like I think we did like a session once where like you were talking about why the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, what was funny about it,
Right.
and you sort of went with like the impressions, which is like always funny. You're always gonna get a laugh 10 out of 10 times,
Yeah.
but like trying to think through like what is really funny about this.
Yeah.
Just like
To me, what was funny about it was that people believe Johnny. Well, here's what the problem with the joke was. I said people believe Johnny because he sounds sexy. It has nothing to do with the trial. It's just that when he gets up there, he sounds cool. But the truth is, the reason the joke
You
doesn't
should just
quite
said savvy at the end of it. Savvy.
It's just like, and then initially I wanted to be a musician, not an actor. But the reason it doesn't work is because people believe Johnny because of the case.
okay.
And so that I'm up against. Like, it's not that the details of the case are ambiguous. It's so clear that she's psycho.
Yeah.
So every time I tried to say one point, it was watered down or diminished and
Interesting.
undermined
By the truth.
by the next point. But the impression was funny. So I made another joke off of it, which was that I give Amber Heard a lot of credit for single-handedly ending the Me Too movement. Because for a long time, all we heard was believe all women.
Yeah.
Believe all women. And then Johnny Depp came along and said, not all of them.
And then
And
That's
that
funny.
always works.
well, then Disney
Not all.
then Disney said, by the way, we have Johnny Depp back in Pirates of the Caribbean 19. Everyone's like, they're still making those.
But I was just like, that always worked. And then I didn't know where to go from there to write it. I couldn't solve the joke because it wasn't that the case was not, even though it's true, people like, I love Johnny. Meaning the comments, there's also another joke that's part of it. We're really geeking out on comedy here.
No,
but,
isn't that what they want?
but this is, yes.
Isn't that what Buckle Up is?
It's my mother-in-law and Ami's friends.
Yeah.
Is
but
what?
My
Our audience.
followers.
Our audience.
He thinks a lot of one of them, and then the latter he can't stand. My fans on my Instagram, like they detest Michael. They want him.
They
dead.
don't like
They
me.
want him dead.
Somebody commented.
Kill the hobo.
Yeah, someone
Who's
just,
the hobo?
someone
Get
just
rid of him.
commented L co-host. You know what that means?
Like,
Loser
like,
co-host?
meaning like an
Probably.
L, like a loss.
Loser.
So, I don't know. That's what I was
Meaning
thinking.
like when somebody says like W, like whatever. I'm very out of touch with slang.
That's what I
I
was
think they
thinking.
also said
big L.
KYS, which is kill yourself.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
gets
I got
pretty
that
bad.
once.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay.
What did I sign
Michael's
up for?
doing fine.
Ami's got the best fans.
Oh, the best. I love you. People. Keep at it with the positivity. But in the comments, the funny thing about one last thing about Johnny Depp Amber Heard was that everyone's like, justice for Johnny. I'm like, he could be totally guilty and they would still love him. Like, there's something about that there where like, they were like, he hit her. He's a method actor. That's what they do.
Well,
Like, there's something about always defending
Well,
him.
also, it's similar
Because
to
they're fans.
It seems similar to like an athlete of like a football player
Mm-hmm.
that like depending on how good the athlete was in that time, that Adrian Peterson, very good, kind of got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
Ray Rice ended career, of course.
Right.
Different
it's the
things.
Chappelle joke with Kobe Bryant where he's like, here's a ball, Kobe, play for your freedom. After,
Michael
like, that
Jackson
whole
too. He's
thing.
like, if you found out he got raped by Michael Jackson, remember they were talking about the child? It's Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? Like he was just like saying what everybody felt.
I was thinking the Michael Jackson Chappelle skit. They tried so easy to just get
That was
them
Chris
away.
Rock, I think.
Was it Chris Rock?
Chris
Or-
Rock.
Oh,
Was it
right,
an
I'm
interview? He's
sorry.
like, they tried to help Michael.
I tried to say, hey, do you think it's okay to sleep in the same bed as little kids? And he's like, maybe. And you're like, oh.
No, let's try it again.
That's what I felt. That's what I felt like Kanye had. They had these opportunities. Kanye, do you think the Holocaust is bad? And he's
Alex,
like, it is good.
That
and
was
you're
Alex,
like, oh my.
Alex Jones and him. He was just like, no. Obviously, mainstream media is calling you a Nazi, but you're not a Nazi. I am a Nazi. Oh, but I think Hitler. I mean, there's a Jewish mafia, but I think Hitler did some not cool stuff. I mean, I can't stand by that. I think he did some great things. Oh, we are lit right now. Lit. Oh my God, lit.
Yeah. When
did you watch that live stream with Alex Jones?
I did not.
Alex
I saw those 2 minutes.
He's like, who could make me look good?
Yeah, it's another one of those levels. Everything is relative. Well, I think what was it? I forgot which politician said something about, I can't believe you would buy a Tesla. You should buy like a Volkswagen. And everyone's just like, hey, I don't know if you know the history of Volkswagen, but let's just say Germany isn't great.
Yeah. Oh.
But anyway, I would love to see I'd love to see your set and like you know, you're doing it full time now and like you develop it and like to be like, oh wow, that's a joke that everyone, no matter who you are, can appreciate, even though it has the word Galila in it. You know.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing to try. Say, can I make a joke stronger by being like, hey, I know you guys know this inside baseball term, but can I explain a little bit more for everybody? Yeah. And it just kind of like,
but you know what? No, and it's part of the set. It's not even like an explanation. It's like, you know, part of the build up to it.
So here's the thing. I have a
thing.
So fine. So it's interesting because I have a joke like that about Sota, where I said, the joke goes, I said, I feel like watching a Sota explode. Must have been horrifying. But I bet there was I bet there was a guy who was a huge Mortal Kombat fan who was like, fatality. Which is a very, very specific niche of like, if you were a child of the 80s and 90s and you get this thing, that is totally right up your alley. Come see my show March 16th. But
there's a gamer, Matt, from Gamer, a religious gamer who's like, fatality.
Also during the temple times.
Yeah. 100%.
That's why it's so funny.
I'll get back to this in a second. That's my favorite.
When she cheated on him, he was like, "Get over here!"
Come here! Anachronisms of like being like Moshe in the Mishkan when they're raising money for donations. My favorite thing is Moshe reading all the names of all. It says all the people donated, and I bet Moshe said, "Everyone, thank you so much for your donations. Every donation helped, even." Chaim Goldberg's $18 with the earmark note that said, "For this we left Egypt." Like, to me, that's hilarious. So the Sota thing. So I say about Sota, I usually start with the Sota. I didn't even finish the fatality thing if I don't think the crowd's gonna be on it because it's like older girls. Like,
I think that's hilarious. I actually relate
but you're right in that wheelhouse of
absolutely.
Zone. You know what L stands for. No, but kidding. But Sota. So I say, I feel like watching a Sota explode.
Easy.
For those of you that don't know, a Sota is when a woman is accused by her husband of committing adultery. We don't know if she did it. So what she does is she drinks this special water. And if she committed adultery, well, then she explodes. You know how you do. And that's very John Mulaney of me. But
you know how you do.
You know how you talk to your grandma. But if she didn't explode, well, then they have the most awkward car ride home in the history of the universe. It's like, do you want to talk about what just happened? I think you're sleeping in the sukkah tonight. Okay. And then it says,
sukkah?
What?
Is Sota talked about in sukkah? Or
It's talking about its own thing.
Probably in Sota, yeah.
Oh, it's in Sota. Well, look at you.
Look at this guy.
Stark. But here's the
Stark
thing.
means very,
like
very
the
religious.
Galila joke, I think what you'd probably have to do to solve that problem is like pull back way further. And if you explain to a crowd that doesn't know what you're doing, so here's how much we care about our Torah.
Oh,
there's a guy who lifts it. He goes like this.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Right.
And people who don't know what you're talking about will laugh because this is just to foreign things are kind of funny.
Right.
Then he puts it down. Then there's a guy who has no physical strength who goes up and dresses.
That's interesting.
It.
I feel like I'm going.
We basically get the Torah ready for a wedding that doesn't exist, and we dress the Torah. Then we march it around and we kiss it.
Sounds like you have a good Galila bill.
Like with everything, there's always two guys. There's the guy that does this. And the guy that says that, and like
That's
bring
good.
it.
This
from
podcast is a
that
writing
to
session.
Listen,
like
guys,
Jewish jokes.
this is great. No, I think I probably just jumped to the shortcut. That's a part of it. Also, is that because of having these day jobs all this time, I didn't get enough time to not enough time or enough mental energy to take a magnifying glass on my existing material and cut the fat. Say, this joke doesn't work. Why do you keep doing it? Cut it out.
Schmaltz.
Yeah. Gribbinus.
I should never buy gribbinets from a moil. It's so chewy. You know what that's
Isn't it
from?
amazing that Robin Williams
He's
wasn't
not
Jewish?
He's
He's not?
No.
Uh,
Robin Williams?
Weird Al Yankovic either.
Not Jewish.
Not
Really?
Jewish. Adam Sandler should do a song of people you think were Jewish from work.
That's funny.
But actually,
You should do that song.
what?
You should do
Robin
that song.
I feel like if he was
Williams,
here and you
weird
suggest that, he'd be like, no. Adam would say, hello. Yeah.
One of you should do that song.
What?
One of you should write that song.
He's had, Adam Sandler. I feel like he's commanded so much admiration and respect from everybody.
Well, I think
At this point.
Well, I think because recently he had Uncut Gems and other stuff. Because meaning he had his Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Big Daddy, the treasures of the
90s.
of those times,
Yeah.
and then he made a bunch of flops, and everyone's like. That's why the movie Funny People is interesting because it's really about Adam, but it's about Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Like it kind of is.
Yeah.
It's like this
It's autobiographical in a way. So he talks about his,
kind of, yeah.
But I even heard like Bill Burr and Rogan, right, who are like alphas in the stand-up comedy world right now, in the moment, in the culture, like talking about Adam Sandler in some older episode, but they were just like, Rogan's like, I get it. I get what Adam is. It's just silliness.
Yeah.
Like my daughter's watching Little Nicky. She's 7 years old. She's cracking up. She's like, I get it. And Bill Burr, who's like, okay. What am I gonna do? People give him a lot of shit. What are you giving him a lot of crap for? We're gonna go make another Zohan, make another $1 zillion. By all means, yeah. And like they're all like everyone's like amazed at his success and sort of what he's grown.
Longevity, because I feel like comedians have a decade. Bill Simmons talks about this. They're like, there was a Will Ferrell decade. Will Ferrell's he can't make a movie now. Like
we can't make a
he can't make a comedy like he did in the aughts. Like or like Mike Myers is a great example.
Jim Carrey.
He had his decade, and like maybe now they would make an Austin Powers 4 or something, but that kind of comedy just isn't. Like
Well, it
comedy only
evolves.
lasts
It
a
evolves.
decade or so.
Well,
It's not the actor. It's
it
the
evolved past you, but
part of
Adam
it
Sandler's
also-
still making.
But
those
part of it
movies.
has to do also with cancel culture. I seriously mean that. Meaning there are a bunch of movies.
jokes that
you
worked.
rewatch any movie from the 80s,
Yeah.
there is like movie Animal House, or you watch whatever, like Caddyshack and all these stuff. Ace Ventura, one of my favorite comedies of all time. That entire like twist is not okay anymore.
Oh, the
according to a
trans?
lot. Yeah.
Finkel is Einhorn. But that's
Your
okay.
gun is digging into my hip. Come on.
I think it's an overstatement to say it's cancel culture that's doing that. If you
I'm
watch,
not saying it's cancel culture. I'm just saying that, meaning a movie like that right now would get panned immediately.
it just
in the
wouldn't
script.
be funny.
Well,
To-
they-
to
well,
most-
they
no,
wouldn't
Ace
make it
Ventura
the
still
same
would.
make it.
Ace Ventura would be funny.
I agree, but you also.
But if you watch Blazing Saddles, I think look, I think
it's supposed to be ironic about it.
I just think that my contention is I believe cancel culture is a real issue and a real problem.
Yeah.
But the reason things evolve and become less funny with time isn't because of cancel culture. It's just people's sensibilities to different things. The appropriate type of not cancel culture, but the appropriate type of evolution is a gradual one in which people find different things funny over time. Cancel culture is trying to take things that are funny to most people right now and shut them down because they offend a sliver. That's different.
But I think that entire Ace Ventura thing, I think, still holds up in a lot of ways. But I think that entire like plot line of him being grossed out that he kissed someone who's trans or whatever, and then like all of a sudden, like that entire like thing, which is a huge part of it. Spoiler, is that basically like that? I don't think people. The gob like burning his clothes.
She's
in the
got balls
corner.
on the back of her ass was the funniest thing ever. That end scene, the big reveal. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel.
I 1,000,000% did not get that when I saw that as a kid.
Of course
I
not.
did not understand
of
what was
course
happening.
you didn't.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Yeah.
You
Did
no
you?
way you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how old were you?
I was old enough to know like she's actually secretly a man, and it was freaky.
I didn't get
Remember
that
she takes her
actually, I
shirt
kinda
off
knew. I
at the
don't
end, and
get
it's a
that.
man or something like that. I don't know what.
I
it
don't
was.
know. Whatever. But the point is that like
Maybe I'm thinking of something.
But as I'm saying, that's entire plot line of the last 10 minutes of the movie or whatever, that entire section is like quote unquote problematic.
Yes, but it's problematic now because of cancel culture, not because most people wouldn't find it funny. I don't think that's fallen out of favor.
Fine, fair enough.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Blazing Saddles, people might cringe at now. Even old Friends episodes, you're like, ooh.
Blazing
I think it's the opposite of what you said. I think you said people's sensibilities change. Like a joke that was hilarious in the 90s just isn't as funny as it is.
There's a
30 years
combination.
later.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like,
saying.
it's like watching my dad's like Andy Griffith was so funny, and I was like, this show
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
you're
don't
saying
understand.
the premise would be
Yeah.
problematic now, not the joke. Like even
Yeah.
touching this
Both,
subject
both,
is
both.
But touching the subject. That's why I defended like Dave Chappelle on the on the trans jokes, but not the Jewish jokes, like on the monologue. And I thought and to me the difference was in the monologue on SNL where he talked about Jews, it wasn't the fact that he talked about Jews that was a problem. It's sort of the substance of what he said. Whereas I think when he
agree.
went after trans people in his Netflix specials, it's it's a non-starter just to make any sort of joke. Not
Yeah.
I don't know.
you don't have to agree, but I draw a distinction.
You are Jewish, right?
What I'm saying is I like a good Jewish joke. I like a good offensive Jewish joke, an edgy joke. It's when he started to go into commentary.
So it's interesting.
And his commentary on the Netflix stuff happened as a response, I think, to being attacked.
I would also say stuff about like Holocaust humor is that I have a joke where one of my first best jokes that I told was I was in a hotel lobby in New York, not in a shidduch date, and I was waiting for the elevator, and this German couple was standing behind me, and I sneezed, and they said, Gesundheit. And I turned to them and I said, thank you, but I couldn't help thinking, that doesn't make us even. Which, to me, is a different, meaning that's a, by the way, the Holocaust happened joke, as opposed to a really offensive joke about like victims of the Holocaust.
I get it, but Louis C.K. made a joke about child molesters on an SNL monologue, and it was awesome. It was an amazing joke, and he even acknowledged how hard it was to get through in the moment.
Louis C.K. has never been canceled.
This was before that.
I
I'm
know.
judging the comedy.
I'm
I'm judging the comedy.
I agree.
And I'm just saying he's finding the funny,
think,
and then he gets there. He goes, "All right,
honestly,
we did it. We got through it."
The Dave Chappelle thing bothered me. The SNL thing.
Yeah, we're all very Jewy here. Let's talk about that.
No, I'm saying the thing he said. No, because of the thing he said, I was like, it's like you can't blame
Yeah.
black people for Jewish problems or something like
You
that. And I
can't
was
blame
like,
Jewish people have been through horrible things, but you can't blame the African American
like
community.
that was a
you
weird.
just can't.
That
And it's
last,
like that's not what's happening.
That line
here.
right
Yeah.
there was the thing that got me the most.
And it wasn't a joke. It was just like it was a statement.
This was like a.
In other words, the
side-
difference is in one category where it's whatever group it is, right? And I'm not saying I know it's hard to believe. I'm not credible in the sense because I'm Jew. Oh, because you're Jewish, you're getting offended by the Jewish stuff. It's not really that. And in one case, the entire topic is off limits by nature of the fact that you're talking about trans people or you're talking about any quote marginalized group in this category. You can never joke about them. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can joke about Jews, but like make
I'm
it
saying
jokes.
also Anthony Jeselnik is
Yeah.
guys. These are jokes.
Yes.
Everything here is not. I don't mean seriously.
Yes. And sometimes the joke fails, sometimes it doesn't. But that was the difference. I felt like he was then going into his commentary, and then he judged it by a different standard, which we've talked about before on previous episodes. But
And you're both transgender and Jewish.
yeah. So let's talk about
How
that.
did you feel about it?
When did post-op, pre-op? What's going on?
nice button there.
Yeah, but in terms of expanding into a bigger audience, back to what Michael was asking before, we kind of dissected a little bit of your material on how it could work and stuff. But you're focused right now on sort of doubling down on your audience.
I would love to get to the point where like I think the awareness. I think a lot of people in the Jewish space know who I am in that regard. But I would love to get to the point where like, hey, this guy is who you have to hire for your gigs, for your shows. And again, I'm gonna keep hopefully like have like my 3 columns of okay, this is like we're talking about. Hey, you should mark this and say this is a joke you can do for everybody, and this is a joke you can do just for Jewish crowds. This is just for Hasidic crowds. This is just for whatever. Right. And I mean that's also like it's also again the day job thing is I didn't have time to write because I would just be like, all right, I have these gigs on weekends, and I'd be like, oh shoot, I gotta.
Prep.
So now that you're full time, what does that mean? Like, what are you gonna do?
Oh,
with
good.
your
What?
8
That is-
8 hours?
that
a
is
day?
the
There's always that question. So, like, what does your day look like?
So I went to see the
I'm really
Fablemans.
curious.
No, I which I did. No, my wife.
Slow movie. You loved
cut
it,
up
but
on
I thought it was
I
slow.
liked. Of course. Have you seen Spielberg?
I don't like movies that are just the vibe and nothing else. It's just not. Michael, you might like it.
Just
I
See it?
actually, and this isn't even a joke. I love movies that are just vibe and nothing else. That's actually
Did you
like
see
my
The Fablemans?
favorite. I didn't see it yet. I want
So
to.
you'll like it,
You
probably.
should
Yeah.
see just the vibes. Just the vibes.
It's just the vibe. I also like. I never
no-
like when somebody goes "Oy vavoy, oy vavoy."
Oh, are they like anti-Semitic
well, so
Jewish?
I have.
It's
like
not
ca- like
hunters.
character-
It's not hunters.
No. So no, meaning it's
Seth
within
Rogen
reason.
tries.
But that's why I like what I liked about early seasons like Mrs. Maisel, for example.
It's too much for me.
At a certain point. No, I think at a certain point it got. But at like
Caricatures.
Kevin Pollak at a certain point in that show
Is
was
accurate?
very. I found very like genuine, and then it became a little too like, my Manischewitz is burning, like type of thing, and you're like, and which gives me hope that one day I can go to a more secular Jewish crowd and be like, guys, have you ever heard a joke about your yarmulke falling in the toilet?
But
Because
it's
you would
also-
love my stuff.
There was that show Hunters about the guys who were hunting
Season
down
2
Nazis.
trailer just
Oh
dropped.
yeah,
And literally, I'm like, everything is as Jew. I'm like, guys, Jewish people. I know that our life is defined and dictated by all things Jewish, but we don't talk like in biblical references. He was like, oh, it's hotter than the burning bush in here.
Or everyone has to wear a tallis always.
Always.
Why is? Oh, it's a rabbi. Put a tallis
It's a
on.
lack of real consultation.
I was cleaning out for Hanukkah, and then as I was putting away the menorahs, someone knocked at the door. So I opened the door, and I was holding a menorah, and I'm like, "This is how they think in the writers'
That's
room."
amazing.
Of like,
While
this
you're-
is all-
I-
oh, hello.
I literally,
I'm a Jew.
I still want to work on this. How to bring this into stand up. I once went on a flight. I was bringing somebody a gift for like we were staying for a weekend, and we brought them a bagel slicer. And I literally brought this on the plane in my carry-on, and not realizing, oh, by the way, it's a bagel guillotine 5000. But also, like, what's the headline? Jew can't go 2 hours without a bagel. Like, but that's a.
Subtlety is believable.
hilarious.
I mean, that's a huge issue with me. With
Baruch Hashem.
oh my God, Jewish. The Jewish
You know,
depictions.
the Talmud
That must-
says
The Talmud
that's
says-
a mitzvah.
Well,
The Talmud says that is what I love about a show like Game of Thrones, for example, is they start the story right in the middle with all these terms, and you have to find your way into this world.
And they consulted really Westerosi people, and be like, "Is this accurate?" Like,
but,
you know,
but in a sense, they tapped into a
they
rich.
said that's not the real dragon. The real dragon.
They tapped into a rich world, and in reality, there's so much consultation that can be
well,
done.
also again, yeah, and that must. I'm in for sure in LA.
But you like the Fableman.
Well,
I like the
I'll tell you what
Fablemans.
happens.
Yeah.
They hire writers and they're like, oh, you're Jewish writer. Now you can contribute.
I had a bar
And
mitzvah.
they're like, I'm a Jewish
Listen-
writer. Oh, I am so Jewish. And then like when it comes down to it, they don't really know.
That's what happens.
how
They
to
say,
do it.
"Oh, listen, yeah, like the same thing. Like you have a take on Israel? Yeah. I have Fiddler on the Roof on DVD, and I eat bagels every Sunday. So of course I know the geopolitical
Right, exactly.
circumstances that are in that country. Yeah, I don't know if you get to comment on that without, but yeah, I think it like you're saying, all it takes is, hey, guy with the yarmulke, is this what you do? No.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe don't make up a thing called dead goyim leg about. Did you remember? Did you hear
No.
that thing? This is one of the funniest / saddest moments in like media in the last couple of years. There was some Canadian show called, I think, something about nurses, whatever, and it was just about they had a guy, a patient come in.
Imagine a show called Canadian Nurse.
He's not gonna scalpel, eh?
Well, it's gonna get bloody. It's gonna get very, very bloody.
Oh sure, yeah, that leg's gonna have to go.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh yeah, but will I ever,
I got a spear.
Doc, will I ever be able to play hockey again?
I got a spear. Thank
Oh,
God.
just put some maple syrup on it. It'll be fine. I don't know why.
Syrup?
That was a little Irish.
Just put some maple syrup on your leg. It's gonna be mighty dandy.
You're not Canadian, are you?
Oh shoot.
Oh shoot! Luckily, I got an extra kneecap.
By the way, I have a toy. My kid has a toy car, and it has a Lucky Charm symbol.
Yeah.
And my kids call it, oh, it's the Chocolate Man, or something like that. The Leprechaun.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a funny name for a leprechaun. So this show, anyway,
Canadian Nurse.
in this show, this episode, this ultra orthodox kid is like gonna play basketball. He's playing basketball, and he hurt his leg, and then they talk about how he has to get like a skin graft of something. And they say, and then the father, who is this like classic over the top curly fries payas, like fake whatever, be like, you can't accept a skin graft from, it could be from a goy, from a woman, and you're like, why are you making up halakha? Like Grey's Anatomy did it too,
Right.
like years ago, where they're like,
That's
oh,
so
you have to like one of the first episodes, like, hey, you need to have an artificial valve from a pig.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, I'm sorry.
You know what your grandmother would say?
Do you know you have a pig heart, a chazer? Like, and so like it's such a shame, because there are so many Jews you could ask, but just because you met a couple who are like a couple people who are like, they're not so into it, and they don't know the story and the origin. It's like it's really bad.
The hubris to think that you don't have to be sensitive to a particular community.
Well, it bothers me also because every other group you wouldn't even.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But
yeah.
we don't know if it happens with like when they do Asian stuff. We don't know how wrong they are.
But imagine the
Fair
up in
point.
arm. But imagine how up in arms everybody would be. Listen,
Yeah.
I think it's rightfully so that like all these. I'm sure the Muslim community was upset that every 24 bad guy was like, hey, this is what a Muslim is. Like, that's probably pretty offensive. So, but like, I don't think anybody takes the extra time to be like, hey, is this
Here he
really
goes
what
again
it?
with the Muslims?
Is this really what a Jewish guy?
Can I also? I do think there needs to be a fast food restaurant, kosher, that opens in Brooklyn or the Heights called Curly Fries Pay Us. That's what you just said. Curly Fries Pay Us. I would eat there every day.
The quality of payas on television and film is
Terrible.
atrocious.
That's what I mean by curly fries.
Even in the Safdie brothers, they made the uncut gems. They got everything right,
And-
except for this chassid with like
And what's amazing is that when Judaism is depicted right, it's like your bar is so low that you're just like, oh my god. It's like when you apply to a job and you don't hear back, and then eventually a bunch of jobs, and you finally get an answer and they say no, and you're like, oh my god, they're so nice. They said,
I always respond, thank you so much for your response.
Thank you so much. Exactly.
I wish you the best of luck in your search.
Please, yeah, no, but I'm saying like all it takes is ask a Jew, ask an observant Jew. Is this an accurate depiction? Is this right? And best depiction of Judaism, I think, in media is Jackie Mason on The Simpsons in the first episode where he plays Krusty's father. Watch that episode again, because they literally will just be like, hey, they're like quoting parts of the Gemara.
You guys just became best friends.
They're quoting quotes of the Gemara, and they say, oh, who's that? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? Yeah, sure, he's like reading the Torah like he's writing a letter, but like they really took the time and do it from a respectful way.
Yeah. And it was emotionally based also. It was about like a father and son, not like
right.
Also,
Well, that's why I say
obligation.
Shtisel is such a good show, because Shtisel is a good show because it's not about them being Hasidic. It's about their family, and they happen to be Hasidic.
Yeah. They're human too.
They're humans, and that's how you really do good characters. This is about people, and this
It's
is
hotter than matzo ball soup in here. Yeah.
I would love. Well, that's what this Hallmark Hanukkah movie that just I didn't.
I was had a song in it.
You did?
Yeah, Hanukkah on Rye. My band had a song in it.
Hanukkah's on right. The name of the movie.
That's cool.
What was the name of your song?
The name of the song is "My 8 Favorite Nights," written by the guitarist from Linkin Park, and we were the artist that recorded it.
Really?
Nice.
Favorite nights. Is that how it went?
Yeah, exactly. The guitarist Michael from Linkin Park, not the singer. But I thought it might sound like that.
Well, did you ever think about acting?
Did I ever think about acting? No.
Yeah, I think you'd be good.
Really?
Yeah, you should. Yeah,
add that to.
I wonder if any opportunities would come up.
People wouldn't approve. What part of I memorizing
I feel like you'd
lines.
be a great best friend in a rom-com.
I would make a great Gleela guy,
like a Jason Alexander type of guy.
I don't know. It's like, hey, I just want the script to say, looking for a nebbishy, balding Jew who looks like he has every genetic disease. Yes. You like what if IBS was a person? Would you?
What's that? I've heard. What if IBS?
Irritable bowel syndrome.
Have you said that? Have you said that on stage?
No, I just said that. No.
That's really. You look a little bit to me like The Critic.
Oh, I wish they brought back that show.
I love that show, John Lovitz.
And you know what's amazing? That first of all,
I loved that show when I was a kid. It was on for just a brief.
It was on like every few years.
Funny.
2 seasons.
On.
2 seasons. But it wouldn't be funny anymore because they've already made sequels. Guy. No, they already made half the movie was like Jurassic Park 2, the Raptors escape, and now they made Jurassic Park 17.
Which one? Which would be
he would review
every
films.
Movie. Sorry, he's a film critic, but they would be like all make these satires of movies.
He's losing his mind.
But it wouldn't be so funny because in the movie industry is just all reboots and sequels.
Yeah. And that was it.
But that movie, that show should totally be rebooted.
As a kid, I
should
remember
bring that
dying.
back.
It was before Family. I was in between Simpsons and Family.
So
I was the critic.
Funny.
Think we could get John Lovitz on the show?
Yes,
we could.
I tried to get him to do a
benefit.
How familiar are you with like From Twitter?
I'm not on Twitter. I know Bashevkin.
You are on Twitter.
On Twitter.
I mean, I'm literally on it.
One of the
I'm not really. I don't.
Active.
I check it once, literally once a year or so.
Okay, so
like I don't.
One of the followings that I've been able to build is like a Twitter base based on like really frum jokes, and that's a little bit where it's helped to lean into.
I want to
like,
hear about this.
These like frum things where it's like you're taking these jokes and like, does anyone get this? And I was like, yeah, like making a joke about Kent on Shabbos or something.
Is Bashevkin D-Bash Ideas? Is he the king of from Twitter?
He's he's a big name in it in terms of like as in like there's. I don't want to say so many. It's not like a club, but like it's
Michael's more active on Black Twitter.
And Kent Twitter.
But I'm saying from Twitter. So the reason I say I brought up from Twitter John Lovitz is that first of all there was one of these videos going around at one point. This rabbi saying, I like to get high. A guy told me he likes to get high. You know what I get high? I get high in the Borei Olam and whatever. And it was this great clip going around.
Yeah.
But somebody, Gilbert Gottfried, Oliver Shalom, rest in peace. Somebody sent him a cameo.
I love From Twitter. It's amazing. All of these very affiliated From Jews writing about the Gemara, writing about the Mishnah. Too many rules, people. I just can't follow it.
Yes, keep going.
That's why there's a disclaimer before Aladdin.
Okay.
One of Michael's favorites.
Yeah.
So somebody send money to cameo to Gilbert Gottfried to do this video of this recording, to do it of this quoting saying, I like to get high. Him reading this
That's a good use of money.
It's
So
good
I
use
like
of
to
money.
get high in the Boreolam?
Yeah, of that guy saying it, like this viral video from the From World. So there's
You
another
know where I like to get high? In the Boreola.
By the way,
something like that.
A
You
great
could watch it.
Patreon would be that guy being like, "Yo, you give me $10 a month, I'm gonna use it for things like this." I would give that guy $10 a month.
So what happened with that? There was a video going around last year of this guy saying, being really enthusiastic about like, what could you do if you could do nothing in life? What would you do? And this guy's like, I just want to learn. But here's how he said it. He's like, I was sitting in the birds in Muncie, and I was somebody asked me, what would you do if I could? I would just learn Barei Pesachim, a certain section of the Gemara, a Rabbeinu David, which I didn't even know was a commentary, and just drink Rishis cold seltzer, which I thought was a kind of seltzer. And it was just amazing. It would just get so into it, a minute and a half. So this guy's so enthusiastically. So I tried, me and a few friends, we tried so hard to transcribe some of this video and send it to John Lovitz. And we raised money on a Cameo to have John Lovitz do it. Because John Lovitz doing that, to me, would be the funniest thing. Can you do a John Lovitz?
What happened? He's dead?
I don't have it immediately. What I would love is to just learn all day. I don't really have it down.
Rich's Cold Seltzer.
Rich's Cold Seltzer.
Yeah, that's-
Harvey Pesachim.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
That's the ticket. He's losing his mind. Learning, I'm a learner, not an earner.
So if John Lovitz is out there,
Yeah.
we tried a few times to send him this thing. It's also Cameo. You only have like, I don't know, 50 characters, so I couldn't give the whole backstory.
Yeah.
Is he on Cameo?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We sent it to him, and we sent him a few times, and he rejected it because
I don't know. You could
Rejects
do
the
that.
request because it's a little bit
Rejected
thorough.
it,
Cameos
a
for
little
like
complicated, it's a little thorough.
Yeah.
By the way, it's my grandmother's 73rd birthday. If you could say something about my Uncle Bernie, who also had a hip replacement last Shabbos, whatever. So like, you can't write that whole thing in Cameo for some people.
that usually gets rejected and stuff when people want a whole sketch, But that's
BS.
not
They
quite
should
true.
have
This
to
was
say
we
whatever
record
you
this
write.
video.
You can reject
Play
whatever
for me,
request you
monkey.
want.
I'm paying you a
Yeah.
good $180 that we fundraised,
Yeah.
pretending it was going to tzedakah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so we
Oh,
tried.
that's disappointing.
I know we tried
Could
really
we
hard.
could we just like cameo him as a guest and just pay him $180 every minute he's on our podcast?
Who's
a lot of-
funding that?
that's a lot of Dunkin'-
Tradition soup.
That's a lot of Dunkin' Donuts.
Exactly.
Manischewitz in
He's
Bayonne,
got to
New
be
Jersey.
accessible, right?
John?
He has to do
If he's
anything.
on Cameo,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
whatever.
There's a lot of people on Cameo.
I know, but
I'm on
like,
Cameo.
but if his Cameo isn't that expensive,
Mm.
no, I feel like that would be.
Maybe a green room connection first,
But anyway, so speaking of, you're doing this full time
Yeah.
now. Like, do you want to get into video content and like putting things out there and performing and?
I was telling Ami this and somebody else that like it. I think I would be very good at writing this kind of stuff. Like I don't know if you were serious about the actor thing.
No, I'm sorry. You're very.
I appreciate it. But I feel like my memorization is really poor. Like even when somebody's like, do a promo video, and I'm just like, come to this show February 6th at Avos Torah of Englewood, and like, you know what I mean? Oh, that's where I am. But
I was like, is this coincidental? Or you had no idea.
well, also the way they come up with shul names is just you
understand.
take generic Jewish words. It's like the Jimmy Fallon randomizer, and it's like, where'd you go? Shomrei Chesed, and they just put words together, and that's also where your daughter's going to seminary. But I would totally do video stuff. I just, again, it's a matter of having the time. I would like to write. We were talking about different sketch ideas yesterday. I think
T-neck Road. That's my wife's idea, actually, to do a sketch video driving through Teaneck, but just Queen and Road. And just
it's so. But also, again, instead
amazing.
of looking at, but also in terms of the writing, instead of like Christy Brinkley in a convertible, it's just like somebody in a van. It says like Camp Hask on the back on the bumper sticker, and then it's just a huge shaitel.
Can we do Muncie Cops?
yes, we were once driving in Muncie.
do Muncie
Okay,
Cops, guys.
and right away we're just like it just came to me. We were driving, we're in the car, and we started riffing on this idea called Muncie Cops, where it's literally cops, but it's like. So it's Sukkah's time. Everybody needs a Sukkah. Everybody needs a Sukkah. And he's driving around, and there's like altercations. This guy's a little bit too much there with the Rebbe. He's got too much there. But the minutes making the brachas, they're waiting on lines. Long lines for the Rebbe tonight. Long lines. And it's like literally one of these Shmira vehicles. Muncie cops. On this episode, what you gonna do when they come for you? It's gonna be very serious.
Sir, you have a l'chaim tonight?
Yeah, l'chaim, what's
Little
going
too
on?
much?
Hey, Chevra, what's going on tonight? What are you waiting on here? What are you waiting? Are we drinking? A bissel something? A shtickle?
C&G a little too long, no?
It's a little long. It's a bissel late. What's this? A schmeth?
Yeah.
What's in the schmeth? What's in the schmeth?
Your license is liquid. What are you doing here?
Bad boys, listen what you're gonna do. Boom. That's the whole theme song.
Oh my gosh.
Guys, let's do it. Let's
Bad
write it
buckers,
down.
bad buckers. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? I know, not much.
Can I mention my idea yesterday about the
Sure.
perm thing? I said,
Oh, this is good.
my perm one, I want to do one coming in the next 2 months, is you have in the Megillah, for the perm story of Esther, who's supposed to hide that she's Jewish. And Mordechai says, oh, Esther, you have to hide the fact that you're Jewish. And you pan to Esther, and she's played by Fran Drescher. And she's just,
Oh no!
I will try my best.
No problem. No one's gonna know at all. He's like, oh god.
No. But then the entire time is everyone in Shushan is. It's like Superman. I can't tell it's him. Whatever. Everyone's just like, I think Haman's like, yeah, I think she might be Jewish. And then Mordechai says, now it's time to tell everybody that you're Jewish. Tell the king that you're Jewish. And she says, okay, but I hit it really well.
You're Jewish?
You're Jewish.
You?
To me, that's so funny. Like, and then also even the reveal when she finally says it at the party, and he says, I just want you to know there's this guy out there who's trying to kill my people. I'm Jewish. And Haman says, I knew it. Like, to me, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That, and again,
I love
I know. Listen, is in the Persian story, so it's not gonna be Fran Drescher, but
Yeah.
still,
Just somebody so Jewish.
So now that you have these ideas and they're
Yeah.
good, like are you ambitious enough to like start a YouTube channel and like in earnest be like, I'm gonna do this? I mean, I talk about this a lot about how hard it is to build an audience on social
I would love
media.
to collaborate with people because I don't think I have the
but
I don't have
even to
9 mics.
collaborate,
I don't have the entire B&H studio
Even to
that you guys
collaborate.
have here,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's 2 cell phones.
Guys, it's very their
Our
iPhone 13.
lighting battery just died over there.
But their
so
iPhone,
be
but their
thinking-
iPhone 13s. No, I like meaning I think I'm the idea guy. I would love to be writer's room and be like, all right, let me punch up this thing. Like one of the
And
things.
stand-up clips. You'll have.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one of the best.
You
one of
guys gotta hook
for
up
for
a little bit.
during the Zoom times. Elon Gold, gotta hook up. At one point, are we gonna tell 40-year-olds, by the way, that hooking up doesn't mean networking anymore.
I love using that phrase, and I love saying like, "What a boner."
There's a Cubs back in the day. There was one of the Cubs World Series in the 1910s. It was like it's called like Merkel's boner, and it's like this big mistake.
What does it mean in ancient times?
What a
mistake.
screw
What
up.
a hoot.
mistake.
Oh, what a
What a
mistake.
screw up.
Oh, because I remember in Beauty and the Beast, as a kid, I was dying. He was like, Belle, I'll never get this boner piece of contraption to work. And I was like, did anybody else hear that? I'll never get this. What a boner. So
And that's why Beauty and the Beast has a disclaimer in front of the movie. Every Disney
Exactly.
movie has a different reason.
Right.
That would be funny. You go through Disney movies and you give a reason why. You give each scene instead of just saying a generic. It was an insensitive time. It may be a thing, and say no because this scene will never work right
you
now.
say why and what's the
The
reason?
exact reason you say, listen, and then it's like the Amy Schumer. Did you see the Amy Schumer sketch for the anti-Semitism thing?
No.
I don't know if it's a promo. I don't know if they're bringing the show back, but there's something about like she's doing a thing and it's like she's at like a work thing. They're like an HR thing. Like everybody, we want to talk about workplace sensitivity, and they say, yeah, because like Amy's a Jew face, and then they're like, yeah, I know you're a woman, so it's not. It's a little whatever. They like are extra sensitive, except the fact about the Judaism part,
Right.
and it's like really poignant for right now what's going on in the
Right.
world. So you got to check that.
That everyone's
sketch out.
sensitive except the Jews. It's like whatever. Listen.
Everyone's accepted. Well, it's also
not quite that.
It's
It's
also
like
like
funny.
Jews can take a joke because it's like at least you're not killing us.
Hmm.
Like that's really. And I would say the same thing with like the black community. I think also that they're just like black community can handle a joke. They can handle a joke because you've been through worse.
Yeah.
Much worse. So it's like
But whites can't take, woke whites can't take a joke because they haven't been through. Is that what you mean?
and they're projecting
Yeah.
their thing. If you tell any crowd, like some Jewish crowds can really handle jokes about
It's
Jews.
always people on behalf of minorities
Correct.
that are more offended than the
Correct.
minorities themselves.
Correct.
Mark
And-
Norman talked about that too. In
Yeah.
like a clip that's gone around. He's just like, hey, you can't tell that joke, but I did this joke for a black room and they were dying. So who are you telling me that they can't take the joke? That's kind of offensive. Hey, comedy. I'm Kevin Hart.
I just watched my first clip of it. He's really
First
funny.
clip?
He's amazing.
I've
like
been
his
hearing for a
stand-up
long
on the
time.
spot.
I just watched his first
Dude, Mark Norman
set.
Mark
is
Norman?
amazing.
You've been sleeping on Mark Norman?
Yeah,
Mark Norman is
Ooh,
incredible.
very funny.
Savant.
Incredible
He's
comedian.
stuff.
I mean, so much.
What did he tell you backstage once or something? You were talking about something? He dropped a gem. We were talking yesterday about it. Was it about
Shoot.
something really? Was it wise about stand-up? Was it like it was a stand-up?
I tell you off air, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a good one.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry,
got it.
everybody. No,
Got
but
it.
also no the.
that's disappointing.
I know.
It's
I'm
okay, it's
sorry.
okay,
no,
it's
I don't want to. I don't want to.
Okay, we'll do it off. air.
Whatever.
Rogan
But
does
it
that
was.
too. We could do that.
It was really. Wait. Oh, can I bring up the summer gig that? About
Yes.
the
So
intro?
one funny anecdote. We'll
Yeah.
close on this, and then I just want to hear a little bit about just your back to your daily routine and
Yeah,
process, and what the
yeah.
plan is now that you have all the time to
Yeah.
yourself. Like things start to get really more challenging in a way. Now that
Yeah.
you don't
So
have to
no, I did a gig in the summer, and I at one of these places, in the Catskills or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, which is still happening a little bit. It's not like Mrs. Maisel time, but the funniest was that like I got introduced. The person who introduced me, she was just like, we had this comedian Modi last week. How good was Modi? And Modi's a very big name in the Jewish, comedy scene. And everybody was like clapping. Well, if you want to see him, he's doing a show also later this summer. Now, he's not Modi. And I had to walk into that and just be like, I've never had an intro of it. I made it work. I kind of made a joke about it.
You
and said,
did. I was there.
Thank God I made a joke about it, and I said, wow, I've never been introduced. But how good was last week's comedian? That's
So not Modi, ladies and gentlemen.
not
Eli
Modi.
Leibowicz.
Yeah. So in terms of
You used it really well. Everyone. Was
no,
laughing.
thank God I was able
Owen's
to,
right,
and that's another thing also is coming up with something in the moment as you get this thing of all of a sudden you're that's in these Jewish gig also you just all of a sudden are given this impossible situation sometimes where they're just like, all right, everybody, we're gonna say Tehillim, Perek Kuf Chaf Aleph. Explain for the audience, but Perek,
A prayer of sadness.
a prayer of sadness.
Begin with a prayer of
and
sadness.
and then we're gonna have the comedy show, and that's pretty much how everything goes. And
But
the
your
fact,
material is so equipped to take that on, which is what's
yes,
so good
and
about it.
my persona is very much like it's also better. Like if a comedian before me is dirty, it's great because I'm just like, hey, you've seen this guy on Comedy Central, you've seen me at the Young Israel of West Hempstead, like.
And it's unnassuming, and then it sneaks in, and people are like, okay.
My best quality is that I'm have low expectations.
You look like a paper plate at Kiddush.
Look like a paper plate. I want to do an ad for my comedy because genuine ads are so annoying. I want to do like a print ad, whatever, and it's just fake quotes, but not even about my show. It just says like, we didn't go to the dinner because it was $25. The room was freezing, and then somebody got a good suggestion. They said he reminds me of Chani. Who does he remind me of? As a quote.
That's really funny. I love that.
Isn't your Twitter bio also, I make jokes while Jews eat?
I love
Something
that.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Like I make jokes during Jewish dinners because like it's so
I
classic.
make jokes for Jews while they eat.
But I really
Just owning it. I just love that.
But like, of course,
Yeah.
and everything is about us eating. But I really do think that like what we're saying, as much as it's like segmented and be like, hey, you're going into this little niche of a zone of even just Orthodox world, there is so much room out there for that because I don't think, as we know, the media is just. And the Netflix is like, all right, my unorthodox life. Here's how orthodoxy is terrible. And like, there is nobody doing, not much of people doing, hey, I am an Orthodox Jew who prays 3 times a day, but I have very serious opinions about certain Seinfeld episodes or Ace Ventura. Like that doesn't happen. You're not depicted. And it's a very unique point of view, I think, that's really, it's your Jewish characters are generally like, yeah, my grandmother's kosher. And that's it. And I think there's a lot of space there. But in terms of my daily routine, I'm still figuring it out.
You came in here, you saw a whiteboard of a bunch of stuff I have written down, and now that you're like sort of in the space of having to craft your day around creative productivity and development,
Yeah.
do you have stuff in mind of how you're going to do things? I saw you kind of mapping out different places to target to book events.
Right. So I have the the long term goals and whatever.
And this is good advice for anyone also like thinking about going into the
for sure.
freelance.
I want to. I realize what I need to focus on. I need to focus on writing material, like we said, for the 3 different I guess targets that we want to do. Enough material that I have that again I got a corporate gig, I can do it. And also my video. I'm aware that thank God I've been doing well on Twitter and Twitter and Facebook.
Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. The film Welt, and but my Instagram is not as strong as I'd like it to be. And I realized, okay, Instagram and TikTok are really where it's at. Make, like you said, video content of, even if it's not just like sketches, it's me taking high quality videos of my act, chopping it up, and being like, hey, let me release it.
The Modi model.
I don't know if I would call it the Modi model, but I think it's like, meaning in the sense that like, I think
No, but Modi's really very good. And, I know you're not
the
him,
funniest is
but-
that somebody came up to me and said, "Have you heard of Mutty?" That was the
But all
funniest.
stand-ups right now, a lot of them are posting crowd work, stand-up, like from so they don't give away their jokes, but they like do crowd work.
Well, I
from
think in
the
general,
post-film
it's a good move to do that
yes,
because
totally.
it's a great move because a crowd work thing is so good because you're just like, you came up with that on the spot, like that's brilliant. But
But it kills 2 birds with one stone. You're performing, you're working on
you're
material,
not giving
and you're getting
away.
content out of it.
and you're not giving away stuff.
Yeah.
Although the only reason I said Modi is because I think it's pretty cool what he's accomplished. Just through social media.
Exactly. No, I'm telling you, his stuff. He's doing shows all over.
And it's like so specific. You couldn't do that 10 years ago because you couldn't find those people where they are. But now you can send a joke about how Ashkenazim say Good Shabbos to the 250,000 people that get it. And that's amazing.
Can you imagine if you could track WhatsApp? I would.
You actually can in a certain sense because I know.
You said forwarded many thousands of times.
On our podcast, on the analytics, it shows where people come from, and it shows how many people come from WhatsApp, which is cool.
So that's
so you can
very
see
cool.
that means the
But
link
I
is
would
being-
love if, meaning, listen, I've had some of my memes or whatever, my jokes go viral. Nothing worse than your joke, the name getting chopped off. That happens all the time.
Of who attribution? Who made this?
Meaning, it's a tweet I have.
And you'd want to see where things land in the WhatsApp space because WhatsApp is religious.
Listen, I had a Hanukkah joke that went great years ago, and since then there's like a bastardized, more yeshivish version that's not as good. That it goes around every Hanukkah. People have used it on like.
Care to share what that is quickly?
Sure. The
That's
joke.
really cool.
The joke. My joke is that on Hanukkah, Hanukkah we eat the oily, terrible foods because Hanukkah is all about the battle against the Greek culture, and the Greeks are all about man being in prime physical shape. So on Hanukkah, we eat oily foods to ensure we never become like the Greeks. And I came up with that on Facebook.
It's just text?
It was just text, and then I posted it, and then it got
Twitter.
And then it went viral to whatever WhatsApp groups and whatever. This is like probably 8 years ago at least, and then it got turned into there's like a standard like passed around meme or whatever that somebody says a Hanukkah vort. The Greeks were about fashion, sports, and looks. On Hanukkah we eat latkes to make sure we don't look like them. Which is not the same joke. I mean, no, it's not the same. It's the same exact stylistic in me, but a much worse version.
Yeah.
And you know that they took it from you.
Yeah, is it possible they just
no, because this. Listen, it's not my chiddush. I didn't come up with that idea.
Yeah.
But
That was Michael's graphic. You should tell him.
Because I wrote that joke in 2006.
The exact specific. People have said I've had other stuff, but like that specific. If you see the same template, the way you do it, and I knew it went down around the same time.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm just.
Well, that's why you got to get on video saying it so people can.
No,
just,
I know. Well, right.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
now I make a call like a stand-up shot.
Yeah,
where I do like my picture and then a joke and then it's like a meme. It's a lot harder to crop.
I wouldn't want you to sell yourself short. I think you I'm really enjoying talking to you and seeing you perform in person. So
Thank you.
I think
Want to go to his show tonight, Michael? He's performing tonight.
Yeah, but I'm all.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, he's committed.
Let's go. It's
Let's do
Friday
it.
night. Let's
Well,
just go.
Thursday night.
But also
Definitely.
I'm
a Friday
doing like 10 minutes during the check spot,
night. Okay.
which is when Jews do the math. when they're just handing out and they
During the
say,
check
like
spot.
not
it's
just
late. It's late.
it's late. It's after like an 80. It's like and it's I'm following Ashley Blaker. Who is also a Jewish comedian. He's doing like a one-man show, doing it stand-up in New York.
Ashley?
Yeah,
It's a
man.
woman's name.
It is unisex.
Huh.
Ashley.
It's like
is.
Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
One
don't
of,
And I
one
get
of the
it.
funniest movies of all time.
Which one? Wrongfully Accused?
Actually,
Or Naked Gun?
You know what? It's Naked Gun, but I'm not even. I was wrong.
Wrongfully Accused is one of the funniest.
Though that era of like a parody
Slapstick,
spoof movie,
airplane
I also saw
movies.
Hot
Great
Shots Part
example.
2. Did you ever see it? There's
Yeah,
clips of that going
I
around
love
TikTok.
those movies. But that's an example of a decade of comedy.
Oh,
that-
so
Wrongfully
funny.
Accused. Wrongfully Accused. Do you know the movie Wrongfully Accused?
It's
It's
like
the
a
fugitive-
later
it's basically the fugitive
Leslie Nelson.
spin-off.
Don't call me
movie.
Shirley. Yeah,
That's
It's-
airplane. That's
So
airplane.
it's the
idea.
fugitive spin-off.
Yeah.
So basically, but it's great because there's one scene where you know the Usual Suspects ending. Spoiler.
yeah.
Yeah.
Usual Suspect.
limp.
He's reading off the thing. So like he's at a store. Like Leslie Nielsen is on the run and he's reading. He's like, yeah, I was at Timberdoodle and Buzz and Frog, and like all of a sudden, and then like Adam Walsh, the guy from America's Most Wanted, is like reading and he's drinking the cup and he reads and he sees the whole thing, and it's like it's a great thing. Is this a Naked Gun thing where they say, "Oh, hi Kalanick, you're a Jewish holiday"? Hi Kalanick.
I actually don't remember. I'm mixing up things in my head because remember the president in Hot Shots who
No.
said, then he's like, so, he's like, let's spin the globe and see where we should start the war. He plays the president of the United States. He's like, sir, that's Minnesota. He's like, the enemy's over here in Afghanistan. He's like, then we'll fly them over here. Come on, pay attention. It's just like
I think I saw Hot Shots when I was like very
Hot Shots
young.
Part 2. And
I
it's
saw
like,
that probably when I was like 7. And I
Charlie
shouldn't
Sheen
have.
goes, Mr. President. He's like, no, you're not. I'm the president. He's like, don't do that. Just like such silliness.
silly.
Don't tell them that. I hear he's a weird guy.
Like that's Mel Brooks' influence for sure.
And it's just so ludicrous and
like
hilarious.
Spaceballs. Spaceballs still.
But
really
to me,
holds
Mel
up.
Brooks is more like silly Borscht Belty a little bit, and then you get
Why?
just to me, it doesn't like it's funny and silly, but then like you get to like, the evolved version of the Hot Shots when I was a kid, and now watching it now, I watch clips and I'm like, it's just so freaking hilarious. That guy who plays the president. And why did I bring helium instead of air?
But no, so I was saying that for the check spot for what's it called at the show
Yeah.
is that's when like you're at a comedy club, they like drop the checks, and it's like it's not just that people aren't paying attention, they're looking at how much they paid. They're like angry. They're angry, and they have to be like, guys, you know what's funny about when you lift the Torah and roll it up?
What the?
Their only
$8 for a Sprite?
The only thing they can do at this point is not laugh at you.
Well, right. It's
That's their only
exactly
recourse.
it's a necessary evil at comedy clubs because you have to pay the bill,
Yeah.
and often they do it when somebody it's like again it's they'll say, hey, can we get either a new person or something like that. I'm talking like Ashley's doing a main show and I'm like doing it after him, but generally they put it up a new person and say, hey, do you want stage time,
Right.
type of thing,
I see.
and that's when they do it because it's like, okay, this is
But- Yeah. On to what you're going to be headlining there at Stand Up New York.
March 16th, Thursday, March 16th. Show is called Remind Me After Shabbos. I realized how tricky that was because I wrote Remind Me After Shabbos, March 16th. And people are thinking Shabbos isn't March 16th. And I realized this is an oversight, but a hilarious one. Remind Me After Shabbos, to me, as a...
Put it in quotes. And
Yeah. Well, to
You
right,
could-
that's a good point.
That's the graphic design. You could probably fix
I know.
that.
Put it in quotes. Just put it in quotes.
Right.
It's
What
always advice for everything.
What
Just put it in
I
quotes.
realized though is that I like that. I've had that title I've had that title for years because to me it would be like, what was you have like a Shabbos icebreaker, right? People would do that. Like when I was like single, it'd be like, all right, you go to me like, what's your icebreaker? So mine would be like, what would you name your comedy album? What would you name your thing? So Remind Me After Shabbos. I don't know how I came up with it, but to me it means it's I tell my wife I come up with a great joke on a Friday night meal. Can't write it down. Remind me after Shabbos. My wife will say after Shabbos, I was supposed to remind you of something. And it's like, but like to me, it's a great joke for a comedian and tells you exactly in 4 words exactly what kind of comedy I'm doing. And every modern Orthodox Jew and whatever can understand it.
Yeah.
Last thing about the
I love
day-to-day,
that.
right? You want to get to the day-to-day? Day-to-day, I realize I have to work on my material. I got to work on my social media game. I want to tackle all these projects at a time. And like
work
video.
on myself.
I work on myself. But I also, I'm like, I'm going to be a little bit flexible with being like, hey, I'm doing a podcast today. This is about my comedy. And this is going to help my, and
Oh, dude, you don't even know what's about to happen, man. You about to blow
all
up.
six, all six of
You're
the
getting
listeners.
buckle up. Buckle up.
You're gonna get buckled up.
You're gonna get buckled up.
I'm gonna get
So
buckled up.
Your career's about to just literally hit 5 people. We've made.
No,
people.
we
make
yeah.
stars here.
You know, we could get if we get
If
a
John
a
Lovitz
good-
accepts
a
our
good clip.
cameo request.
Good clip, it can happen.
Yeah,
That's
it
what's
could
cool
happen,
about
it could
social
happen.
media, though. It's just that you have the ability to reach lots of people in an organic way.
Yeah.
so that's
For
what's
sure. No, I listen. You should always. Every Shabbos meal should be taped. In theory.
cool. For me, I have so many good things that have come out of that.
Friday night meals are the best
Energy.
time. I don't know if it's the end of the week, if it's something that
I
Friday
know
night
it
meals.
well.
I've called that Shabbos meal is Ami's canvas.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I would,
it's a
if
thing
I
of
would ever
beauty to
do a
watch Ami.
podcast, it would be like unrecorded Shabbos meal or something like
Yeah.
that. Something like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, I'll tell you what people tell me. I wish you the best of luck.
Listen,
Don't quit your day job too late.
I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's interesting.
But you
You've
may want to update
obviously-
your resume. You can always take the LSAT.
You're very talented guy, and
he does jokes. I mean, he does jokes. He does videos.
He's
he
very
does things.
funny.
You know, I have a
And,
granddaughter. If you weren't married with 2 kids,
I don't know about that because if you're gonna do full time comedy, I don't know if I want to like that lifestyle. But I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah.
It's good for you, not for us.
not for me.
So we'll end very Jewy and wish you the best of luck. Congrats on your latest venture
Should we
going
do a
full time
little,
in
like,
comedy.
dance? Should we
We
do
put
a
our
little circle
fingers in.
dance?
Should I do my- And anti-Semitism just went back 30 years.
Buckle up, episode 49. Eli Leibowicz.
Leibowicz.
Leibo-
Did you do that on purpose?
Actually, no. I think I was in Niven
Eli-
mode.
It's Eli Leibowicz. Have a good night, everybody.
Eli Leibowicz,
Leibowicz.
comedian and friend.
EliComedy.com.
We'll have you again.
Yeah, we'd love to
Where
have
can we
you
find
again.
you on social medias? Let's just tell the folks.
Eli Leibowitz, spelled Polishly, ELILEBOWICZ. Write it down on Twitter at EliComedyogram, because again, I'm terrible at social media.
Yeah.
You need a nap after
we'll put
that.
the
No,
links,
listen,
we'll put the links
Ellie,
in
one
the-
piece of advice for you, kid. You got to change your name. You got to change your name. I'd say Eli Leib. And you're done.
Eli Johnson.
Eli Johnson. Eli Johnson.
Also lose the yarmulke and the nose.
Eli Smith.
Maybe just E.
Just E. No, that's why my website is EliComedy, ELIComedy.com.
Excellent.
Because Leibowitz is too hard to spell.
All right. Well,
Cool.
thanks for being here. And
thank
good luck out there. We'll see you March 16th at Stand Up.
I'm predicting good things for
Good
Ellie.
things,
Good
good
things
things.
for Ellie.